All right. Welcome to yet another episode of the House of Auger. I am your host, the man of the house, JT Auger, and with me are my co-hosts tonight, Adam, Joel, Nicole, Sativa, and Mac might be here. I'm not sure.
They are not at the moment.
Everybody say hi.
Hi.
And
Hey, guys.
tonight, hey, there you guys are. So tonight we'll be doing a round table. No guest, but as is usual with our roundtable format, those of you listening in are welcome to join in on the conversations, should you choose. If you'd like to join us, let us know in the comments that you'd like to be unmuted, and we will go ahead and do so. As is per usual, the disclaimer is that this is not a family-friendly show. We curse. We talk about all kinds of crazy, stupid shit. Some of it's fun, some of it not so much fun. But all of it is probably not really appropriate for kids or the easily offended. So that being said, let's start the show. I want to talk real quick because I think it's neat, and I'd like to hear what Adam has to say about it since it's kind of his field. The Mars InSight landing. You guys heard about all this?
Yeah.
Did you watch?
I did not watch it, but
you didn't watch it?
No. I actually had work to do. Because I mean, for those of you that don't know, I work for Lockheed Martin, and they were doing a screening of that like I was able to go to, but I kind of decided against that because I'm actually really behind on a lot of things, so I didn't actually get to watch it, but...
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
So, this is the 8th successful landing on Mars, which I thought was pretty cool. I guess we've had half as many failed attempts, but I mean, that 8, we're getting better, I guess. So... It was.
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now. Yeah, my internet is meh. Yeah, no, it's probably on my end, but Auger just became gradually more robotic and then spaced out to the point where nothing was coming through at all. So quality internet on my end.
Okay.
Yep. So anyways, go on.
So InSight stands for something, and it's a acronym for Interior Exploration Using Seismic Investigations, Geodesy, and Heat Transfer, which is fucking a lot to take in. It's the first mission structure of Mars, not just the surface, which is kind of interesting as well. It had several things on it. This is the first mission where instant offer uses, which by now they've already been taken off the deck of the lander. The things that they brought with them were a seismometer to check the heat flow and physical properties. I'm sorry, no, that's wrong. The seismometer checks the well, it does what a seismometer does. I'm not an expert on those things. I don't know how to explain what it does. It just checks it uses...
The seismometer checks for movement of the Earth. Like Earth.
But does it also have, doesn't it use radar as well?
Not a seismometer, no. That would be something different.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm dumb. So it also has a heat flow and physical properties probe, which actually hammers itself into the surface or under the surface. It's about 16 feet to take the temperature and other things. So literally, we are anal probing Mars, which is kind of cool.
That's the only reason you wanted to talk about this. You've revealed your hand.
God.
There's also... They also included a radio science experiment, which I thought this part was pretty cool. It uses the radio on the spacecraft to measure minor variations in the wobble of the Mars poles, which will tell us more about the structure and composition of apparently just the wobble alone. I've still got a cough. I apologize. Still trying to shake this cold. The wobble will tell you what the composition of the core is, I guess. I don't know how you do that, but I guess based on how much wobble or how little, that'll tell you more what kind of elements you can expect in the core. And this is supposed to go back 4 billion years of data, and the first data package will be received December 7th. It took them 6 months to get. Well, the landing was, what, 2 days ago? What do you think about all that, Adam?
I don't know. Sweet.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
you're looking for like some in-depth analysis on my part. You're going to be very disappointed.
I see. This isn't.
I should have kept up with this more, but unfortunately, that did not happen. So.
Well,
It's.
I thought more people would be interested in this. Everybody's like, "Yeah, fuck it." We put something.
I mean, it's
Mars.
like the 8th time we've put something on Mars, and it's just like, okay, we've done it 8 times. All right.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, we threw. We hucked a chunk of metal into space.
Oh no, it's freaking cool.
This one thing, and we did it. That's pretty fucking. I don't know. It's pretty impressive to me.
No, it's very cool. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Now, and this one is especially neat for all of the experiments that you were just discussing, because we basically, one of the problems with only sending probes is the ones that we can afford to send, because they're tiny, they're shit. They just kind of trundle around and they can't do much of anything, right? So you can't really get into the meat of the planet, as it were, with what they're doing. I mean, if you could send a few people up there with like an 18-wheeler worth of equipment, you could learn more in a week than we have in the decades that we've been going to Mars. But obviously that's ridiculously expensive. So this one, they've been able to miniaturize and pack in a lot of stuff that will hopefully, come up with some really cool things.
Yeah, and it seems like definitely the scientists and the engineers who were involved that were being interviewed were really, really excited about all this. They went into a lot more depth as to, what the instruments would do, why they were sending them, what the purpose is. I'm giving a very brief, very surface level overview of what exactly is going on here with this thing. But yeah, they went into a lot greater depth. One thing I did notice when they were showing the control room, a lot of white guys, a lot of white women, not a whole lot of that room.
Yeah, it's still dominated by men, and by white men specifically. And then, that pisses them off too. They're always pushing for more quotas.
That's the ultimate irony of it, is that it's the government that pushes for these kind of like diversity quota policies, and yet NASA, which is purely a government agency, even they realize, like, we hire the best people for the job, and this is just how the demographics happen to come out. Like,
exactly.
It's not really a racist thing. It's just when each fucking probe costs, hundreds of millions of dollars, you're not going to get, Laquan Jackson for a state to come work at Houston. You're just not going to.
Shaniqua didn't help with the seismometer then, is what you're saying?
I'm pretty sure she didn't.
It was funny. There was, after the landing took place, everybody erupted into celebration, and there was this one guy and this one girl, and they turned to each other. Like, everybody stands up, these two turn to each other, and they do this, like, really in-depth secret handshake type deal where they then bump fists and then rub elbows and then do like a little twisty turn. And, like they did all this weird stuff. And then they high five and he misses. And I'm like, well, thank God you're an engineer and you didn't miss with the fucking.
Of course he missed. Of course he missed.
Does he not know to look at the elbow?
The insight. But the funny thing is that after he misses and they both turn away from each other, she kisses the guy on the other side of her.
Oh, snap.
I know. All around me are familiar faces.
I love that song, by the way.
I know, I love that song too. I love the Donnie Darko version better than the original by God damn it. What is the name of that group? Who did Shout?
Tears for Fears? Tears for Fears.
They did the original.
I like the new one. Yeah, I like the new one. Let me look up who sings it because I've got it on my music.
Are you talking about the one with the just like the voice and the piano?
Yeah, is that Sam Smith or something?
No. I don't think it's Sam Smith. That's old, dude. That's like 99. I mean, new compared to the Tears for Fears one, but that was on the soundtrack for Donnie Darko.
Okay, so that is the one then. Okay, yeah, that one's awesome. Yeah, that's the one I listened to.
It's so good that you think like he could have made that today, and everybody would be like, "Well, yeah, of course."
Gary Jules is his name.
That's right, Mad World by Gary Jules.
Yeah, Gary Jules.
Yeah,
I've got it on my Amazon Prime music app.
It is. It's very good. So I want to tell you a little bit, since we seem to have exhausted our Mars insight knowledge and commentary. I had the strangest dream the other day. Bear with me on this. So I had this dream where I was in an apartment that I knew to be mine, but it's not. Like I have a house, so like this wasn't. I'm in this apartment, and there's this device on the wall, and there's a dial, and I'm messing with the dial, and this list comes up on this screen, and on the list there's like maybe a handful, 4 or 5, like not full addresses, but like a name and a place, kind of. Like a street, I guess. I don't know. I can't remember what was listed, but I just remember it was something like that. So I pick one, and all of a sudden, my apartment changes, and I'm in a different apartment, as if I was shifted. It was very strange. So now I'm in this empty apartment, and there's 4 pictures on the wall, and I can tell that they're like postmodern, and I seem to recognize them as being famous paintings. And so what does my fucking jerk ass do? I start thinking of ways to pull them off. That, by the way, that's like all that's in the apartment. I couldn't see any furniture as far as I could tell. It was just these 4 pictures. I was like, is this an empty apartment and somebody just stores these in here? My jerk ass decides, well, I'm going to rob the place. I'm going to see if I can take these pictures back with me. And so I'm looking for, do they come off the wall easy? And I'm even thinking to myself, like, what an asshole I am for doing this. And so I start looking through the apartment for other things, and I find like, what did I find? I found like a knickknack, and I'm like, I put that in my pocket. I'm a thief. I'm a fucking thief. So I found something else, and I don't like chewing gum. I don't remember what it was, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to take that too. So I go and check, and I see that the door to the apartment is cracked open just a little bit. So I look out, and I see that there's like a walkway. I'm on a like 2nd or 3rd story of an apartment building, and there's another apartment door just off so I'm like at the end of this walkway, and then there's apartments lining this walkway, and I see the doors open to the next apartment. So I'm like, okay, I got to be quiet, and I turn around to go get these pictures, and I start to realize, oh shit, I don't know how to get back. Like, I used this fucking device, and I have no clue. I had no clue what the procedure was to get me back to my own apartment. So now I'm stuck, and all of a sudden this guy walks in, and I hide, and I'm like, okay, what do I do now? So then I come out because I've got no idea what to do. And he's like, this guy's totally friendly. He's like, hey, how you doing? What's your name? I'm like, oh, hi, I'm Josh. And he's like, are you new here? And I'm like, kind of. Which is the weirdest conversation to have with that you just tried to rob or did. Like, I had his chewing gum and knickknacks in my pocket. So he's like, oh, I'm like, where am I? And he says Machu Picchu, which, if you know what that is, that's not a city. That's well, I guess it kind of is. Those are aliens in real life. Am I still there?
Yeah, you're still here.
Oh, okay. So Machu Picchu are ruins in real life, on a mountain. I was not on a mountain. These were not ruins. So I guess my mind just decided, well, here's a name of a fancy exotic place, and we're just going to use that in place of the city name. And so he's like, well, if you've never been here before, let me show you around. So he takes me outside, and this place, like the sky is champagne colored. It's as if, it's dawn. It's just now dawn. And he takes me downstairs into the streets, and this place is gorgeous. Like, it's as though it's got like a Spanish style to it, but it's got like Florida colors. And he starts pointing out places, and I'm walking. All of a sudden, people are singing, and this turns into a fucking musical where now it's like the beginning of Beauty and the Beast, where like everybody's singing in the town, and some guy hands me a piece of candy. I'm like, why are you handing me candy? Some pastry guy's like, here, have some pastry. They're dancing and shit in like unison. It was the weirdest fucking thing I'd ever experienced. And I was trying, like, the last thing I remember was me trying to like blend in, like trying to do the dance moves, but I fucking choreography. So I'm like fucking it up as we're dancing through the town, as they're trying to show me the whole town. It was the strangest thing. I never got home. I just woke up. I just danced through the streets until I woke up. That was the funniest. Like, I tried to rob this guy, and then he sang to me for me. It was very weird.
Okay, Josh, we've got Steve Rivas with us, and he is unmuted, and he wanted to jump in here to say something. Steve, you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
What's up? Hello?
Yeah. Oh, okay. So you hold down on it.
If you have push to talk enabled, then yes.
Yeah, you got it on push to
talk. It's my first time. What's up?
Hey!
Oh my gosh, this is so fucking great. I've been wanting to check it out for however long I've been, part of the group, but I finally did it, man. I'm fucking on. What's going on?
Hey! Is this your first time tuning into the show?
Yes, first time, period. I've always been like, whatever, fucking whatever. But when I had to download an app and everything, it was like, oh my gosh, what else do I gotta do? Tap this, fucking hit that. But anyways,
so much trouble. I know.
And fucking here I am.
Right on. I'm glad to have you, man.
Thanks, brother.
We're talking about Machu right now. Do you know anything about Machu Picchu?
No, I don't. I was listening to that Mars conversation, jump in, and just make a couple comments, but
all right, tell us about Mars.
Well, shit, man. I don't know nothing about Mars. I know that. I'll tell you this. I know I used to sit there and when even when W was fucking in office and they were starting to spend. That's when they were starting to spend some real money on Mars. You know, when W was in office, I think second term. I'm remembering correctly, but and I was thinking, you know, what a waste of fucking money. You know what I mean? Big time. You know, going way the fuck out there. They've been to the moon already. Shit, man, it's totally fucking habitable. It's fucking right there. Why aren't they concentrating on the moon? It's right there. Now they're going way the fuck out there to fucking Mars. And, you know, who fucking knows? So, anyways, that's how I feel about that. That's how I used to be. I was going to say, as usual, yeah, obviously, fucking, we only get to know so much. Whatever we end up fucking hearing about, at fucking best, maybe 50% of the truth or 50% of what's really going on at best, you know.
Oh, do you think they're lying to us about Mars?
Hey, hold on, guys.
Yeah, sorry, by the way, hey, Steve, your speaker is coming through really echoey, and it's feeding our voices back through, and it's causing a lot of echo on our end. Is there anything you can do about that?
Okay, let's see. Have the television on. Is that any better?
Let's find out. No, it's not. I'm hearing myself.
Hey, no big, dude. I think I probably, you know, just shot my first load, so I'll just drop back and see what's going on.
All right.
Hey,
I think the best thing to do would be maybe do the push talk, and then when you're done talking,
well, you know,
take your hand off the button, and that should eliminate some of it. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. No
Perfect.
green circle anymore. Woo! I can not hear myself, which is good. Because I'm like the only person that doesn't like hearing my own voice. I don't know.
Well, I wanted to answer Steve's question as to why, if I understand correctly, what he was saying was, why are we going all the way to Mars? Why are we neglecting the moon? And I think the reason is because we're and going to Mars and learning more about its composition and its placement and more about Mars in general tells us a great deal about the other planets in our solar system, including the moon. So it gives us a greater range of information than if we just went to the moon. And we've done that quite a few times. Well,
plus, like, I don't know about that. I don't know about extrapolating data to apply to other non-Mars planets, but
that's what they were saying.
Is it
during? Yeah, I mean, that's
yeah,
the guy,
of course. Yeah, no, he's right. Yeah, you're right, Josh.
Okay, I stand.
I don't know because I'm not.
But yeah, no. To answer your question, Steve, though, we've been hearing for years, like, oh, Mars at some point had water on it. There's pretty strong evidence for that. And basically, the more research that we do, the more we can actually like learn. Like the TLDR of it is Mars is more interesting than the moon. The moon is basically just a giant rock.
Exactly.
Mars,
yeah, there's very little. Yeah, there's very little about the moon that's. I mean, you pretty much know its entire history by sitting there looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's big rock and it's dry and there was never anything on it. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything more for us to learn. I could be I could be wrong, but I think we've done everything we can as far as what we can learn from the moon. The reason that we're going to Mars, as I understand it, is that we're trying to discover more about the status of a planet that at one point could have held life, and right. It doesn't now.
Yeah.
So it's the most in our solar system. Mars has the most is the most relatable to our own planet. So it makes sense that we would focus our attention to that planet and how whatever we learn there applies to our own. I think.
Yeah. No, that's completely right. And also relative to the other planets in the solar system, Mars is the closest to us. That's not saying much, though, because it's still really complicated to get there. But it
it takes
does
us.
help.
I was interested to find out that from the time of launch, it's 6 months. 6 months in space before it hits Mars, which is curious. It's not that long. That's not as long as I thought it would be, because it's a long fucking way.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's the moon itself is far away, so it's just Venus is closer. Venus is closer, but I don't think it has as much of a. I don't think Venus is.
Yes,
was ever
I should have been more specific. Yes, Mars is one of the two that is closest to us. So
Venus is shit.
Yeah, Venus is exactly. I was just about to say that Venus, because of its composition, probes that get down, by the time they get to the surface, they only last like a couple of minutes. So there's really not a lot that you can do down there on Venus. You can only really explore it through microwaves and sounding and with things in orbit and stuff, and even then you're only going to see a certain amount of stuff. But surface exploration
Venus is our cosmic Detroit.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Can we blame Venus on the Democrats too then?
Or just send the Democrats to Venus?
Ooh, there you go.
I don't know.
They can try to reverse its global warming.
Yeah. They can try all the government policies they want.
Also, Allison, you can go fuck yourself. Ego has nothing to do with it. There was a goddamn echo, you bitch. And we just wanted to fix that. It's not like we didn't want him to talk. We wanted him to talk. You dick. You're a dick. I hate you. So anyway, Gavin McInnes left the Proud Boys.
Yeah, what happened with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about that a bit. He's put a 35-minute video where he discussed it. Before watching it, listening to other people talk about him leaving, it was as though their understanding of the reasons why he stepped down are completely different from the reasons he gave himself. Like I was hearing people talk about, he just like Joe Rogan was like, he just recognized that he must have recognized that the Proud Boys were violent and they sucked and he didn't want anything to do. That's not it at all. Apparently there was did this happen in Portland or did it happen in Seattle? Like a month or two back, I wish Justin Force watched the show because apparently he's one of them. But apparently in either Seattle or Portland about a month or two back, there was a patriot rally, prayer rally, something like that. And there's video of this altercation where Antifa tried to use edited footage to show the Patriot, or I'm sorry, the Proud Boys as violent. And I guess there were 7. There are now 7 Proud Boys being I drown you in a teaspoon again. You're such a dick. I'm trying to talk here, Allison. Fuck you. Anyway, so there's 7 Proud Boys who are I guess going to court and are facing some serious time for this physical altercation that took place between them and a few members of Antifa. The issue being that I guess there was some, from what I understand, there's video footage that shows clearly that they were attacked first. The Proud Boys were attacked first, and then they retaliated. And when they did, it got a little out of hand, and like a couple of the Antifa members fell to the ground and
fell to the ground.
Crumpled like
they
sticks.
clocked them or whatever, and they fell to the ground, and then they kind of ganged up on these Antifa members. Now, from the footage I've seen, that started with Antifa, and like Antifa, these guys. Okay, so the way it happened was the prayer rally happened, and the cops were around them and cordoning them off, right, to protect them and to keep the two parties separate from each other, and the Proud Boys. Well, when the prayer rally was over, they decided to leave. Now, the police provided a barrier between Antifa and Proud Boys so that Proud Boys could leave, but some members of Antifa rushed around, to the other side, going around a bunch of buildings, a block or two down, to meet them on the other, meet them head on. So as the Proud Boys and all of them were heading to their cars, all of a sudden Antifa comes around the corner and they throw things like bottles, and then I guess in defense, some of the Proud Boys tried to retaliate physically. They didn't throw anything back, but they tried to punch these Antifa, and so from the video footage I've seen, the Antifa members were the first ones to gang up on a couple of members of the Proud Boys, but that didn't last very long. Like you can see Antifa like kicking them while they're down. Like they're obviously, one of the Proud Boys fell, or they knocked him down, and they're kicking him while he's down. Which honestly, once that happens, you can't expect that they're not going to retaliate. So the Proud Boys come in, more of them show up, and hit these Antifa guys, and there's this brawl, this mob brawl, and I guess the Proud Boys are now being taken to court. I don't know why. I don't know why Antifa's not, or if they're not.
Right, that's the question right there. Everybody involved in the brawl should be charged,
right,
with something.
But all I'm hearing is that 7 Proud Boy members who are going standing tall before the man and facing some serious time. From what I understand, sentencing. I don't know if they've been charged officially, but the reason that Gavin gave as to why he's stepping down, he says this is just what's the word I'm looking for? Not ornamental. God damn it, I can't think of the word. It doesn't mean anything. He says, I'm stepping down because my lawyers tell me that it'll alleviate sentencing on the part of the 7 members. Yeah. But I'm not really the leader. We aren't a gang. We're a fucking men's club.
Yeah,
this was started as a joke. He goes through the entire history of Proud Boys and how he said, I'm not a leader. There is no leader. I'm just the founder. I started, and it was a joke amongst our friends. It was meant. He plays this song where it's some like musical number from some musical where you've got a guy on drums and a guy playing piano, and I'm a proud boy. I'll make you proud of your boy. And he's like, this song.
Oh,
this song
yeah, no, that's from
ridiculous.
The Aladdin musical.
Oh, okay. This song makes us puke. We think this song is hilarious because of how bad it is. So that's why we named our group after it, because it's a fucking joke. And he goes into like all the inside jokes that kind of formulated the Proud Boys and everything. It was just a joke among friends. He said it just kind of grew. He goes, we're not looking for members. He goes, we're not racist. We're not bigoted. He goes, if we're racist, he goes, we've been labeled as anti-Semitic. He goes to a website for Proud Boys Israel. He goes, those guys must be really busy. He goes, we've got a whole chapter in fucking Israel of Israelis who are Proud Boys. So I guess if we're anti-Semitic, that's pretty rough. So he explains, like, this is just to help these 7 members. I'm only distancing myself and separating myself from the club because I want to help them. And he goes into how, there's a lot of there's some bracelet. He gives a website and there's a link in the video, on the YouTube video, of some sort of bracelet type donation thing where you can buy a bracelet for anywhere from $25 to $5,000. He goes, I've already bought a $5,000 bracelet, and all the proceeds go to the legal fees for these Proud Boys. He goes into at least a couple of the Proud Boys who are up, who are about to be sentenced for hate crimes or whatever. One of them is this big white dude who's got a black wife and he's got 2 black kids. He shows another white guy with a black wife, couple kids. He goes, these guys are out of work right now. Their kids, now have unemployed dads. And he blamed media mostly for this. He goes, the media's misinterpreting, mislabeling. They're getting it wrong, and they're doing it on purpose. They're trying to pin on us that we're this hate group, and we're not. And so he goes into that, and you can look it up if you want. It's quite an interesting video. I thought I would be bored. I was like, I don't want to watch 30, 40 minutes of this. Who's going through a mental breakdown?
You have to. Yeah, you're still here. It's a lawyer who represents Proud Boys in Texas. Here, he's a local attorney where Adam is, Adam LaHood, and they're trying to disbar him because he's apparently going through a mental breakdown, but he also has represented the.
Oh, is he saying that the lawyer went online and said, "Be careful, or your neck will be in this news"?
Yeah.
Oof, you don't want a lawyer representing you who says shit like that. They need to get rid of that lawyer. That's a bad. Ooh, yeah, no,
exactly.
No thanks. Get rid of that attorney. Yikes. But yeah, so I thought it was very interesting. Nobody that I've heard talk about Gavin McInnes stepping down from the Proud Boys seemed to get the story right. It wasn't until I watched his 30, 40-minute video that I understood exactly why he was stepping down. And I think it's sad that these guys.
Well, that's the problem, is that he's got a 30 or 40-minute video and nobody wants to sit through a 30, 40-minute video.
Right.
A 5-minute video, but 30 to 40 minutes, that's asking a lot for most.
I didn't think I wanted to either, but it was interesting. Like he went through the history of why he started this. He went through the explanation of what brought this about. Goes through the details of the incident. I'm not doing it justice, but then again, I'm not involved. So, and I just watched the video once, but I feel bad for these guys because legitimately they are from everything I've watched since their inception, since I first saw them come onto the scene as a thing. I remember being like, Proud Boys, what is that a gang? Like, that's your first thought because they're all dressed in the same fucking shirt, that black shirt with the yellow on it. And I was like, okay, so who are these guys? And then as time goes by, you see that the majority of the video footage I've seen them involved in, they're being accosted and then defending themselves. I've not once seen a video where the Proud Boys initiate violence. Well, hold on, that might not be true. They've got a guy called Tiny, and I think I've seen him just decide, fuck it, I'm gonna throw some punches around because he's kind of a big dude, and he's quite passionate. He's been arrested a few times apparently. Are you guys at all familiar with the Proud Boys? Do you know anything?
Yeah.
Aside from what I'm telling you,
I mean,
right now?
I've definitely seen them in the news, obviously wrongly portrayed, because the media has decided that Antifa are good guys, and everyone that Antifa punches are Nazis. And therefore, since Antifa are punching Proud Boys must be Nazis. Which, that kind of logic only makes sense if you're in elementary school.
Right.
But Yeah, so like, I mean, this entire lawsuit debacle, like, I'm not at all surprised. I'm mad at it, but I'm not at all surprised that Antifa is not being charged and the Proud Boys are. Because the mayor of Portland has turned a blind eye to Antifa for the past, going on a year now. Like, they literally took over downtown, and they were like directing traffic, like diverting
that
it
was
away.
Recent that
was not that long ago. And the mayor was just like, just let them do their thing. Like, like, no, that is not okay.
No, and you're absolutely right. The mayor there, even he has gone so far as to say thank you publicly to Antifa for bringing this issue to light. Like, you're thanking them. They are causing,
I mean, it's mob
disruption.
Violence. Yeah.
They're breaking laws.
They're vigilantes that are, and if it was anybody but a super left-wing group, they would all be in jail. He would arrest them every time they went out and started fights with people. But he's not going to, because of who they are, what they represent.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. I remember what you're talking about, Adam. That was when I guess the cops got in an altercation with a guy and shot him down, and Antifa was pissed about it. Turns out that the guy had shot and killed 2 people prior to the cops even getting there and interacting with him. So the guy, I mean, and I think he turned out to be like a drug dealer, or I don't know, drug addict, one of the two. So it was a legitimate kill. Like, this guy had killed a couple of people. He was armed. He had a gun, and the cops shot him. And Antifa decided, oh, all cops are bastards. We're going to take over the streets. And I don't know what the goal there was, but they were like blocking streets and directing traffic, and cops were off to the side. Nobody was doing anything about it. And I'm like, dude, this is insanity. What fucking country are we in where this is being allowed? This is craziness.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, you said it right on.
I mean, I didn't know about the background to that. I just saw that, like, they were taking over and telling cars, like, no, you need to go over here. And then if the car tried to go in a different direction, then they would chase them down and, like, smash their windows.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, which is just awful.
They punched an old man. He I guess he had they were trying to block him, and he I don't understand why they think crowding around a car and then beating on the car, you think that's not going to scare someone and cause them to go, fuck this, I'm out, which is kind of what the old man did. And it's what every car that I've seen in a video where they do this, like, it's the same.
Right.
It's the same.
That's the natural reaction, is to say, okay, these people are, I'm in danger. Fuck them. I'm out of here. I'm going to run you over. That's what I would do every single time. That's just how.
And I don't know why he stopped, but he like pushed past these people, and I guess he had somebody on the top of his hood for a little while. He didn't run over anyone, but he pushed through them a little bit, and they didn't like that. And he went maybe down to the next streetlight and stops and gets out of his car. And that's the part I was like, what are you doing, old man? Keep going.
Why'd he get out of the car?
You made it. Why'd you get out of the car? And somebody, like, they run up on him, and like somebody threw something at his face. And then they're yelling at him, and he gets back in his car, and they're kicking his car. And I'm like, dude, why did you stop? I don't know what you're doing. But yeah, this is the kind of thing. I don't know. I'm surprised more of that kind of thing doesn't happen here in California, because definitely we have the right mindset, the majority of the people down here. So I'm thankful that it doesn't, but I'm not sure why it doesn't. Yes, remember, if you want to talk, let us know. We'll unmute you. But yeah, so that's the whole thing with Gavin McInnes. Hey, did you guys hear about what are they calling it?
I don't know.
audit.
The what audit?
Yeah, thought audit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Guys are turning in Snapchat girls. I think it's Snapchat. I'm not sure. And reporting them to the IRS. Which I think is hilarious. I guess I don't know how that works exactly. I guess I saw a screenshot of some guy saying, "Hey, what's your premium Snapchat?" And so she gave him the link, and then he said, "Reported to the IRS for tax evasion." And I guess
it's really easy. You just the IRS has a fraud hotline or whatever, probably I guess website, and you just, if you think somebody's committing tax evasion, you can turn them in. And the thing about it is that you can get 30% supposedly of the of the back stuff owed if they are proven to have evaded taxes, and then and the IRS gets money. Yes, that's why they're talking it. That's the only reason people are really even interested in doing it, is because they can, because they can get money from it. I think it's crap myself, but whatever.
Yeah.
Right,
So as small government, generally anti-tax people, what are your opinions on this? Is it right or wrong to report?
I'm torn, because I really think I've seen plenty of these Snapchat girls talk. Like, recently I saw some girl post a picture of herself, and she's like, "I need another loser-funded vacation." Like, they're just mean. They just, like, we get it. You work out and you're pretty. It's not going to last forever, but you don't have to be a dick about it. And so, like, I'm like, yes, taxation's theft, but at the same time, fuck them. They're fucking rude.
Patrol thoughts over. Yeah.
We all have to pay. There's that part of me that's like, I have to fucking pay taxes, so you have to fucking pay taxes.
Yeah, and that's my thing. Is I would rather have consistency than let some people dodge that system. Because if the system is bad, which I believe it is, I think that people are taxed way too much.
Sure,
but that's not. I would rather.
We're talking about people who aren't getting taxed at all.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's like
they're just
so
taking income.
My mentality is, when everyone is paying their taxes as they're legally required to do, at that point, then we can have an actual conversation about, like, okay, is this tax code right or wrong? We can talk about it. But
exactly,
until that happens, consistently enforce the law. No more picking and none of this picking and choosing, because that it leads to some pretty corrupt stuff.
Yeah,
right.
Plus patrol thoughts,
of course.
And to be honest, like, I feel like this is, you have to do this. Like, I'm not I don't hate women, but, like, they are the most privileged class. Western women are the most privileged class of people in the history of mankind. And to see them not only be as privileged as they are, but then to take advantage of that system on top of that, like, you're already on the top of things. Now you're going to cheat the system too and be that much like, fuck you. You earned this. You deserve this. Pay your fucking taxes. Fuck you. Like, and of course, everybody who feels that way is immediately being labeled as an incel, which is hilarious. That's to me, when women who get caught, women who call men incels are the same as SJWs calling it anybody who disagrees with them Nazis. It's their automatic go-to default whenever they hear something they don't like. So I understand. I heard Nicole kind of hemming and hawing there. You disagree?
Well, calling women the most privileged, I mean, that's like a yes. In some ways, yes. In some ways, very much no. And it's
not women.
Western women. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you take
even
it in the
then, I kind of
context
agree.
the world,
It really depends on the specific thing that we're talking about, even with specifically Western women.
Yeah, it's like
this is a good talk. All right, let's talk about this issue. What is it that you feel that in what ways do you feel they're not the most privileged or aren't privileged at all? I mean, what I'm not sure of your position. First, you're saying that in some ways they are the most privileged, but in some ways they're not privileged at all. Am I understanding correctly?
That's what I'm saying. I'll let Nicole.
Yeah,
explain.
that's what I'm saying too. Yeah.
Okay. Can you elaborate on that? In what ways are they not privileged at all?
Well, I think for one, it's a case by case basis. One, I mean, I can only kind of talk from my own experience in that being a woman in an industry where it's primarily male, I get judged and treated differently and have to work harder to prove myself. And even after proving myself, sometimes it still doesn't matter. It just, it's a case by case basis. I mean, definitely, I understand you feeling that way because of the really rampant, strong, radicalized feminism being seemed to be shoved down our throats everywhere we look right now with the media, social media, and everything. It definitely comes off that way.
That's a heavy vocal minority here.
Yeah, yeah. And so
I mean, less than 80% of women in the U.S. at least, I think it's less than 80%. Or I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. More than 80% of women don't call themselves feminists.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I think if we're looking at our, normal, everyday, just trying to live your life, girl or woman, that it's really.
Well, now, are we talking about? Are we arguing over whether or not they're privileged, or are we arguing over whether or not they take advantage of the system?
Well, I mean, I was just with you saying that they're the most privileged.
Yeah, it's not that they're not privileged, it's that they're not necessarily the most privileged, because that you're comparing two groups that are privileged in different ways. Like, there is such thing as male privilege, there is such thing as female privilege, there is such thing as, like, but the thing is, like, and I know this is a very...
What male privilege is there?
What?
Oh, come on.
Being a man?
What male privilege is there?
Okay, first of all, I hate the term privilege, and I hate saying that people are privileged to begin with.
Exactly, me too.
It really fucking annoys me. But I mean,
without the implication of, like, we need to do something about that privilege. That privilege is inherently bad, which I don't believe is true. Like, exactly. I don't think privilege is inherently bad.
No.
And I think the majority of privilege has most times when you hear privilege spoken about, it's usually in terms of or in relation to skin color or race.
Yeah.
And I don't believe there's any sort of white privilege or black privilege or anything like that. I think there's a economic privilege.
Me too. Yeah.
But I don't think that that's necessarily a negative. Some people are born with a silver spoon in their mouth. More power to them. I'm jealous. I'm envious. But
right.
I'm not going to. That's not their fault, and it's not my fault that I. What can you do about where you were born? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, all you can do is work with what you've got.
Well,
and so
sorry, can finish your thought.
No, go ahead.
So you brought up, like, the issue of race, and you were saying that you don't believe that there is, like, white or black privilege, like, at all.
Not in an institutional, not institutionally.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think.
Assuming you mean institutionally, like, as in, like, legally speaking.
Correct.
Like, as in the actual laws themselves. Although actually, technically,
Right.
there is female privilege and minority privilege when it comes to the law.
Yes,
women-owned businesses get specific tax breaks that male-owned businesses do not. That's an instance of female privilege.
Let's not even talk about female privilege when it comes to children.
Yeah.
That's an example of female privilege. So yeah, that's kind of my point. Is like there is, and this is when I say this pisses off everyone at once, right or left. There is such thing as white privilege. There is such thing as minority privilege. There is such thing as male privilege. There is such thing as female privilege. Like all of these things are real, and I don't care.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
but
even me alone saying yes, white privilege
exists
white privilege to you? Is enough to piss
Here,
off
I'll give
a lot
an
of
example
conservative people.
An example of white privilege just that I see in like day-to-day life is our town is much better than it used to be, of course. It's much more progressive socially than it used to be, but there still exists on the other side of the railroad tracks, about 98% of the people are African American, and on the quote-unquote better side of town, they're all white. And many people here still have a negative reaction to a black person based on their skin color, or a Hispanic person based on their skin color. I mean, just...
Is that... does that have to do with their skin color, or does it have to do with the crime statistics and...
Their skin color, man. Here, it's just flat out their skin color.
Yeah,
and in a lot of cases, it's kind of...
I think it has everything culture with race.
Nope, not
here in our town. No, here in our town, most of the crime is done by poor white people.
Yep.
Not by black people.
Yep.
It's poor white people.
Yep.
And some Mexican.
Even to address your question, Auger, Thomas Sowell talks about like 3 different kinds of discrimination, and so basically, there's on one end of the spectrum, there's the discrimination that is perfectly okay, as in like just making choices between multiple things, like as in I discriminate between, like when I pick my friends, I discriminate in favor of people that are friendly to me. You know, that kind of discrimination. It is discrimination by definition, but it's not bad at all. Like there's no negative context to it, or negative connotation to it.
Right.
On the other extreme, there's like, basically like the KKK. Like full on, like they believe all black people are inferior, or all white people are superior, that kind of thing. But there is something in between, which is basically the idea that in the absence of individual data, that people make judgments based on group data. So kind of like you said, where, crime statistics and whatnot gives people...
I mean, when 50% of violent crimes are done by 12% of the population, you have to expect that people are going to be cautious around that 12%.
Yeah. And it's still wrong for the people that belong to that minority group to be labeled as if they are part of the guilty party. The way to solve that, though, is not by just screaming at the sky, "Oh, institutional racism," because that doesn't really solve anything. You have to fix your culture. It's that too, but it's also to allow individual data to take over.
Yep.
When an example of this is like Uber, because it used to be in New York City that the taxi cab companies would just avoid Harlem and like these low income areas that were primarily black, because their likelihood of getting picking up a client that was going to rob them was significantly higher, and so they just flat out avoided him. So that screwed over people that lived in those areas but weren't criminals, because they couldn't get a cab. But whereas with a system like Uber, you rate the individual, on both the driver's side and the client side.
Yeah.
So you can look at somebody and instantly say like, oh, well, their history shows that they're a good person, I'm going to go pick them up. And it doesn't matter where they are. as long as there's money to be made. Like there's capitalism only sees one color, and that's green.
Right.
And that's the nice thing. And so like in any case where people are being judged by their group data, a solution to solve that is move to a more individual data driven system.
Yes. And you talking about that, doing a individual data, judging people as individual, not as a group, not as a stereotype, not lumping them in my opinion, addresses where we even first started with privilege. Like I said, everything, all of this is a case-by-case basis, that there's really so many different factors.
Yeah, and being
and I understand that.
Being of the group that does not get judged by their group data, in terms of crime. Like as a white person, I'm not going to be prejudged to being like, oh, well, is that person a criminal? I don't know. Like based on the color of the skin, like statistically speaking, they might be
judged based on how you look.
Well, yes, I am. I'm judged in different ways.
In other ways.
In different ways. That's all I'm saying. Is that they're different.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that one doesn't exist. I'm saying both exist. But
you're going to be judged based on your culture. You look like the fucking church boy. So nobody's going to be...
Yeah, that helps.
See, that's how you're going to be dealt with by law enforcement. Now, if you had your head shaved and you had tattoos all across your face and you were wearing a leather-studded jacket and fucking camo pants, like you're
First
going
of all,
to be
I'd look like a complete dork. I do not think I could pull that look off.
I can't even picture it.
But you're going to be treated differently than you are. Right. So, again,
that's exactly right.
That's a cultural thing. That has nothing to do with your skin color.
Well, I mean, it has a little to do with it. It's kind of a mix of both.
You can take two people who have the same skin color and entirely different looks, and now you're dealing with two entirely different approaches.
Yeah.
Law enforcement isn't going to treat you the same way they're going to treat the guy I just described.
Yeah.
Hello?
No, you're correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like what I'm saying is there is a non-zero amount of
race. You're matrixing out big time.
Hello?
Not on my end. Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay.
You guys all sound fine?
Can you hear me again? Auger?
Yeah.
Yeah, you sound matrixy on my end. Is it me?
I think it's just you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to back out and come back.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Bram. Go ahead.
Hooray.
All right.
I was going to say, you guys forget that camo pants are actually very, very
That's true. They are. It's not only it can be a comfortable look as well. But I think Josh keeps saying that it's all cultural, but I still disagree because
I wouldn't say it's all cultural. I think that's the issue.
Exactly. There is black and white.
It's not 100% either way. I don't think it's it can be a majority cultural issue because they actually have this was the funniest thing. There was a black guy that did a social experiment like just by himself.
Can you hear me?
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Auger?
Oh, wow.
Still bad?
Yeah, it's still matrixy. I think I'm going to have to just restart my phone. All right. I'll be back.
Okay. Well,
go ahead, Adam.
Auger was going to be the primary audience of this little bit, but it's okay. So like anyway, so this guy, black dude, did a kind of social experiment just involving himself. And basically what he did was for, I think it was 2 weeks at a time, he dressed basically as thuggish as possible, and kind of took notes on how people treated him. And then for 2 weeks after that, he dressed very like professional, or at least like business casual, that kind of like, and like took notes as well. And what he found was people judged him pretty harshly when he was dressed badly, but people actually like were really nice to him when he was dressed more professionally. But then the funniest part about it was this is obviously like a very left-leaning guy, is his conclusion was just completely off. If anything, he proved that it's mostly due to just how you present yourself rather than the color of your skin.
Right.
But what he wrote was like, oh yeah, a white person could dress like a thug the way I did at the beginning, and they wouldn't be judged at all. And
Oh, that's not true.
Wrong. And it's just like,
yeah, very wrong.
No, like that's not what? Like, yeah, exactly. Did he even test that? No, he didn't.
No.
Yeah, that was the thing. So the conclusion was wildly off, but the data itself was kind of interesting.
Really wrong.
Yeah.
I have a friend down in my hometown who proves that wrong himself. He is a white rapper who dresses very, very thug, and he doesn't have a car. He walks everywhere with a backpack, and he gets stopped by the cops all the time and searched, saying that he matches a description of someone. And he's a great guy, actually. He doesn't drink, he doesn't use drugs, he just, works hard to make his money.
Yeah.
But he looks a certain way, that he's white. And because of his appearance, not his skin color, he is constantly harassed by cops.
Yeah.
But so definitely.
Yeah, and I will say, like, at least from what I know, it is more primarily due to, like, how you present yourself rather than the color of your skin. But I'm not going to pretend that, like, race does not play any part of it at all. If anything, like, saying, like, okay, like, it could be, like, 1% of the equation. I'm not ruling that out. That's all I'm saying.
Well, right. And I'm not ruling it out either, because obviously racism exists on an individual basis. People can be racist, and people can end up in all different kinds of jobs. You can have, you can have a bad altercation. You could be 12 years old or 15 years old, and you get beat up by a couple of black guys, and you blame all black guys for that, and then you end up being a senator or a fucking police officer.
It's no different from, like, dogs that get beaten by their male owners and then cannot be around men. Like, they will be scared of all men for the rest of their lives.
Right. That's
like, this is pretty common, and, like, humans psychologically at our base level are not all that different.
No, we're animals.
Yeah, we are. And that's us making judgments based on groups is kind of how we're wired, because if you think about it, if you're trying to survive, like, we're not at that point as a society, thankfully, but if you're being, if you're in the wilderness and you're being chased by a bear, and you see a bear, you're not going to stop and think, is this bear nice? Because, like, the other ones weren't, but, like, this one, I don't really know. Like, no, you're just going to run away from the bear. Like, because it's a bear, and in your experience, bears are not good things to be around. Like, and that kind of.
I saw that movie, Mr. Grizzly or whatever.
Mr. Grizzly?
What?
Grizzly Man.
Or the Grizzly Man?
Oh.
Is that
Grizzly Man, yeah. That idiot in Alaska who got his ass eaten.
They ate his ass.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they sure did.
Yeah.
That was a good movie.
And this is not to compare any race to a
boring
bear.
Until they fucking ate him.
But
It had such a happy
more
ending.
just to say that kind of circuitry still exists in our brains. And
Yes.
being aware of that is important.
Yeah.
Especially since
Very much so.
we're now at a point socially where it's honestly, like, I'm not going to say completely irrelevant, but it's way less relevant than it was thousands of years ago. I think that's at least fair.
What's way less relevant?
That kind of, like, hardwiring of like, psychologically how you put people into buckets based on like prejudging people, not necessarily like in the, like, full out racism kind of way, but, like, subtle judgments or, like, predispositions about somebody.
Yeah, categorization, lumping.
Categorization.
Yeah, no.
Like, like seeing Face for the first time and thinking she's some kind of, being like, oh my God, she's a Satan worshiper. It's like, no, she's super awesome.
Yeah, turns out she's a wonderful human.
Yeah.
But
isn't she
exactly
like she's both?
Yeah, she's a great example of that.
She does worship Satan, but
No,
she's
she's-
also
No, she doesn't.
She's agnostic.
Yeah, she does not.
Yeah, she doesn't.
Like a satanic agnostic, though.
No, she's not.
No.
You are fake
Don't-
news.
Sounds like
Yeah.
you're a pseudo.
All right,
You know,
Acosta.
she's
You know
not
what,
even
Alex?
defend herself.
Here's Alex is a Satan worshiper,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and she's a great gal.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that thing I posted in the group a while back where it's just like Satan worshippers crack me up. Like, you're gonna worship a dude that got his butt kicked by some hillbilly in Georgia, like in a fiddle contest. Like,
Great, by the way.
yeah,
Hey, they really know what they're doing in Georgia, though, when it comes to fiddling.
that is true. I am from there
Fiddling and raping.
originally.
Fiddling
You know,
and
it's not
raping. They know.
It's not like he went to. It's not like he went to Pakistan and challenged them to a fiddle. You know what it'd be like? It'd be the same as going to Pakistan and challenging some Paki to like sheep fucking. Satan's gonna lose
Yeah,
that
it's
one.
like, yeah, you're gonna lose.
Yeah, probably.
You're gonna lose that contest every time. Yeah, because
Fiddling their
that's
cousins.
They're good at that.
Nicole.
hey now, don't you talk about my birthplace like that.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Packies. So, yeah, but like, I still believe that in the history of people, there's no class of individual or no group that has as much. I'm trying to think of a different word now.
As much of an advantage or privilege as
Yes, there we go. That's what I was thinking. You know,
Yeah,
who
trying to
has as
yeah.
many advantages or as much of an advantage as Western women.
yeah. Well,
There's
I'm
no group
just,
in a history of mankind.
my
that
my
does.
personal experience is otherwise, but I just have to still go back to it's an individual
Yeah.
case by case basis. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It really is. So I think we've covered that one. You had another thing you wanted to talk about, John.
I want to talk about women some more. I want to talk about
are they sexual
they-
objects?
Yeah. I think So here's the thing. I was reading.
Yeah.
What was it? These women. I think I saw a meme or something that brought this up to me, and it was after the whole thought audit thing I was reading about, and it shows some girl who's a live streamer. she's 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 got this skimpy top on and her tits are fucking popping out, and she's trying to play video games, and the guy, of course, she has the video game that she's live streaming is in a little screen in the corner, and her
She's the rest of it.
on her, she's the bigger portion of what you're looking at, and some guy below is like, hey, can you make the video game full screen, because I'm not trying to look at your stupid tits. and I thought, and then they get mad, right? And they go, well, you can't objectify. If you objectify yourself, if you use your body and your feminine wiles, whatever they are, if you exploit yourself, if you use your own female advantages, to gain an advantage, then how is it wrong for us to then acknowledge that, right? Like you're putting your tits on display. You don't get to then tell me I can't look at you or treat you like you're just a pair of tits on display.
Yeah, it's like you put a giant neon sign pointing to your boobs, and you expect people to not look at them, or at least or at least look at them but not comment on them or something. I don't know, but like,
yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, you pick one. Either way, I'm fine. Like, I don't really care. You do you, but you can't have it both ways.
Adam, wrong Adam, not you, Adam.
Adam
the other
LaHood.
Adam. LaHood, you're having trouble hearing me?
Yeah.
Is it just me that you're having trouble with?
Huh.
I don't.
That's
Is
really
anybody
weird.
else having?
Yeah, that's
am I
weird.
cutting out for anybody else?
No, you're stable
No.
now
No.
for me.
Yeah, no, you're stable.
I can hear you
Okay.
well.
Well, I don't know what
That's
to do then.
really odd that it's only Josh and only for
Try-
Adam.
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
back
Try backing out.
Back. Okay. Hopefully it'll work.
Okay.
But
So yeah, I just there's the argument to be made that hey, we should be able to dress how we want and act how we want, and it doesn't mean that you get to dehumanize us. And I agree with that, right? Like just because you want to wear a skirt that doesn't cover anything and then shake your ass everywhere.
yeah.
It's certainly whorish behavior, but that doesn't mean.
I've always felt that if you which I've, especially when I was younger, dressed very slutty, and to be fully honest, it was, of course, to get attention at the time. And I mean, that's like me, posting my lewds in the group today and then getting mad if anyone commented about them. I mean, when you do put yourself on display, you're doing it for attention. And if you're not doing it for attention, then just cover it up a little bit. Yeah. I mean, but there's a line. There's a line with people who comment or say,
well,
and do
yeah, I
things.
mean,
like, don't be an asshole. Don't physically grab and assault or rape. It's not an invitation for that, but you're going to get attention. You might get some cat calls, a few comments, but I mean, it's pretty easy to dress a little bit more modestly and even attention. But shit, honestly, if they're not being an asshole, I personally have always taken it as a compliment. Enjoy it while you're young and you're getting the good feedback and the compliments, because one day I think we'll all miss it.
Babe, you have an example of some guys who were not gentlemanly. I think you'd gone to the grocery store.
Oh, I have quite a few.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the ones who followed you in the truck.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Hold on. Oh, go ahead. Do you have a story?
No. Were you gonna say about
No, let her tell the story.
Okay.
It's a good story.
All right. Okay, those are the ones who I was at the grocery store and I'm leaving and they're wanting to they're asking me if they can help me with my groceries, and I tell them no, I don't need help, and they keep following and they're making really, really vulgar comments about what they do to me,
when did this happen?
They want to do to me here in my town, just in the parking lot of our little grocery store.
Recently?
This was a few months ago, but I mean, honestly, I have a lot of stories like this. And they got in their truck, they followed me all the way to the turnoff for our house close by.
Scary.
They when I was about to turn, and one of them was putting their dick out.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm dressed for the ranch. I'm not really at all. So I mean, there's a line. And even if I was dressed provocatively, that's big time crossing.
Yeah, that is way over the line.
Yeah,
and I agree with Ray. Ray says people are free to make comments, and we're all free to think they're assholes. You don't have a right to restrict them from commenting any more than they have a right to dictate how you dress. I totally agree with that. I do. But if you're going to be an asshole, you're going to be treated that way.
Exactly.
And you're right. I'm not making the argument that we should restrict women from dressing a certain way, nor am I making the argument that we should restrict anybody from treating them a certain way. I'm making the argument that it should be okay to do, but like, you want to dress like a whore? Go for it. I'm pro that. I like whores. I like looking at your things. At all your bits, your jiggly bits. I want to see them. I want to touch them if I can, and I'll ask. I'm not going to just grab anything. But at the same time, don't get out there and then get mad at me when I fucking wring my hands together and go, yeah. Like, you don't get to do both. You don't get, treat me like a human being. I am. You're a human being with jiggly bits that I can see that I want, and that's how I'm going to treat you. If you didn't want that, put your fucking, turtleneck back on and shut the fuck up. I have an art. And the problem I have, and this goes back to something Allison wrote. Give me a second here. Where did it go? It's a man's mentality to automatically think sexual shit about women. Bullshit. I call bullshit. Because to say that women don't do that, if that were true, there'd never be any Playgirl. There'd never be Chippendales. There would never be these firemen.
Well, I mean, her statement can
calendars.
Be true and also can be true for women.
Yeah. I think he's saying her statement is true, but it's also true for women. It doesn't mean that it's not true.
Which is correct. Yeah. I think that's a correct take. No, but my favorite is Dave Chappelle's bit on this, where it's like, the woman is like, excuse you, just because I am dressed this way does not make me a whore. And he's like, like what I really like to do is put on a cop uniform and then, walk along the street, and then until somebody comes up to me and is like, officer, I need your help. There's somebody, getting robbed over there. And he's like, excuse you. Just because I am wearing this uniform does not make me a police officer. And he's like, so ladies, you're right. You are not whores. You are not whores. But you are wearing a whore's uniform.
That shit is fucking confusing.
Yeah.
Well, Missy Money, which is Nicole Cannon, said a little bit earlier that hey Nicole, she says what a lot of women say, that she wants to dress a certain way, but she does not want the the attention or comments. And like she just said, you can wring your hands together but keep your mouth shut, which I understand.
You don't get to control that. You don't get to dictate that.
You can't.
Don't get me wrong.
Other people do. I know.
I agree that it sucks when men are assholes, and I agree that there's no need to do like Nicole's story with these guys, slinging their dick out the window and talking about following her home and shit. That shit's fucked up, and that's crossing the line. But you don't get to dictate. If I'm in a club, by all means, call me a dirty whore, but not when I'm at Wawa?
Walmart,
yeah.
Oh, Wawa is Walmart. You're gonna get. I'm sorry, but there's nowhere you're not gonna be called that. Like, there's nowhere safe for you that you're not. Where there's absolutely no potential for that.
Oh, it's actually a convenience store in the Northeast. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Hey, y'all should go ahead and unmute Allison. She wants to add to the conversation right now.
You shouldn't be judged for your choice of clothing. I'm not saying
You're not saying that you should, but you can't. It's going to happen.
It's human nature.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
For you to expect
is very different from.
You know what?
Like you're talking on like an ideal level. Versus
I should be able to wear all my gold chains and jewelry through Compton and not be accosted, but that's not reality. That's not.
Yeah.
That would be stupid of me to base that on what should be. Like I should be able to go through Compton and not be robbed and wear all my fancy jewelry, but that's not going to happen. I'm going to get fucking robbed. And it's stupid of me to not acknowledge that that's the reality and that's the likelihood. So for you to say I should be able to wear whatever I want and fucking wear, a fucking string bikini out to the grocery store and nobody should say a fucking word, it's not going to happen. Sorry.
And I mean, technically she is right. She should. But should is an ideal. And we're talking about actual reality here. Like I should be able to go to sleep at night and not have to lock my door, but I'm stupid if I don't. Like, we
don't live in Canada. That's not how things work. So Allison wants muted. All right, let's fucking do it. Allison, you're unmuted.
Oh, y'all are so mean.
I know you are very mean.
You're
Oh,
mean.
The chat is
oh,
mean.
Her voice is wonderful. You
I
fucking
know.
chihuahua.
She's just always high, so it
Ray,
comes across very,
eat a dick. Exactly. Because I'm
dreamy.
coughing all.
Aw.
Somebody's looking to make brownie points.
Okay, Allison, go ahead and if you're going to talk, go ahead and talk. This happened last week where you got on and then you
It
sat
did
there and said
not.
nothing.
No,
So
it
go
did
ahead.
not.
How
It
high
did
are you
not.
right now? Are you really high?
Yeah.
What are you wearing?
Shorts and a shirt. I mean, what do you want me to do?
We're gonna judge
say?
you on
Damn it, Josh.
Okay, so I was talking about females don't treat men differently, and you guys are labeling females as whores because they see what they like. You know what I'm saying? Like they see how they dress and they like it. They're not trying to impress your ass or somebody else's ass. So they don't need no negative comments, and they don't need to be treated like they're like a whore because they dress with a tank top, because you have this preconceived notion that whores only wear tank tops. That's your own male person problem. That's not a fucking female's problem. Like females are really not privileged.
I can't agree with that at all. First of all, I'm not saying that based on how you dress that you should be treated a certain way. I'm saying it's foolish to think you won't be. It's absolutely absurd to think you can dress however you want, however fucking dirty, slutty you want, and everybody's just supposed to look the other way and keep their mouths shut. That's not reality. That's not going to happen.
No.
You take some accountability for the actions and the decisions that you yourself make. You can't walk naked down dark alleys in fucking in Compton and then get mad when you get raped. Like
no, because first of all, rape is a goddamn power thing. It's nothing to do with sexual.
I mean,
rape is it's kind of sexual, yeah.
Standard,
it's sexual, but it's actually a power. It's a power thing.
It's not all about power, but all right.
So, okay, prime example. So if a serial killer wears a hoodie, a black hoodie, every motherfucker who wears a black hoodie should be like, oh my God, they're a serial killer, and then treated like so.
No, nobody's saying that.
But that's exactly how females are treated.
Yeah. Well, yeah, females are treated that way, but we're not saying that they should be. We're just saying that it's a reality that it is going to happen, and we just can't control. We can't control how other people react and what they do.
I have an example.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with women regarding what you just said. If y'all remember the Colorado shooting, those two kids.
Yeah.
What, Columbine?
Yeah.
So when that happened, after that happened, I liked the guy who raised me had a trench coat, and I liked wearing it to school. I was restricted from doing that.
Yeah.
Because the school called my parents and asked if they could do something about it because of the connection in relation to those two kids who wore trench coats and shot up their school. And for a long after that, that's the connotation. If you were seen with a trench coat, you were kind of
and even still
watch out for that guy. He's gonna shoot up the school. Like that's just how that was viewed for a long time. So to ignore
okay, but you see,
to ignore that is just foolish.
It's all the same as Adam's story that when you had to back out for a while, Josh, that Adam shared about the man who did the experiment. You said he was an African-American man?
Yeah. So basically, black dude, he dressed one way for like a week or two and then dressed another way. Like the first time dressing like really like basically full on thug. And second time kind of more professional. and he got treated very, very differently in those cases.
Yeah, but I think you get treated differently, honestly, because it's first sight. So you do get everybody judges at first sight.
Of course,
but if you come off but if you come off someone like you're an asshole, then you're going to be treated like an asshole. I don't think that you can be dressed like a thug and be the nicest, most polite person, and people be like, "Hey, buddy," you know what I'm talking about? Like if a cop pulls you over, people are always like, "Oh, it's because I'm black." Fuck you. There's black people that get pulled over and they're like, "Yes, officer." "Oh, no, okay." They just are polite, and so the cops don't give them a problem, and so they always try to. It's bullshit.
But it happens.
Right.
Yeah, and we're not defending the bad behavior.
We're so crossing topics now. Like we're back on the other.
We've gone full circle.
Well, it's all interrelated, though. It really is.
It is. There's connections. That's true. I should be allowed to objectify you. It doesn't mean I should be allowed to be a jerk about it. But I don't understand why.
But men are.
Some are.
People.
Men.
People.
No, men.
No,
men. Men. Because other females,
people.
Other females have been trained to shoot. Get out of here. You are crazy because you know this. Men have trained like Stockholm syndrome.
Women can be assholes? Holy shit.
Just in general, you already know that.
Oh my God, I don't even know what to say to you right now. You Portuguese, I swear to God.
Women are perfect. Don't you know? I don't know why I made Allison from Minnesota.
Listen, I'm not saying that.
Women judge
fucked up in a lot of ways.
Women objectify men in different ways, but they still do it.
They don't.
You objectify based on whether we look like we have money, or you objectify based on our height. You objectify based on
men.
You do sexualize men.
No, nigga, we don't stare at your package and like, hi, Josh, and stare down and don't even make goddamn eye contact with you. That's like the rudest thing when you're talking to a guy and they're just staring smack at your boobs.
No, I agree with that. That's rude. But say that women never do that, you never look at a man's ass, you never look at his package.
That's a ball.
But I don't greet them. That. No, I'd have to like you to look at your shit.
I am confident enough as a man to tell you as a woman that you are wrong about women.
You're a liar.
If you were correct, there would be no Chippendales. There would be no male prostitutes. There would be
I don't like
no firemen's calendars with them wearing nothing but their little hoses. And then
Allison, you're the first woman.
You're just more discreet about it.
No,
because
we are.
I'm honest about it.
And there's a reason
and I
for
don't
that.
even like Chippendales. I'm like, fuck that. Why do I need to go to Chippendales? Because the way I look at it is, it's window shopping.
There are plenty of women. There are enough women who do like it.
Oh my God, that's women who have been trained to think like men.
Oh, Jesus.
So it's all a social construct.
Are you serious
Are
right
you
now?
kidding me?
If you fucking say the word patriarchy, I'm booting your ass out of here. I swear to God.
No, I'm not.
I swear to fucking God.
Back to an individual case-by-case basis once again. I think Allison's sharing her personal preference, but I personally have to disagree.
I remind everyone, your experience is and your preferences are not indicative of everyone that shares characteristics with you.
Yay!
So if you as a man behave a certain way, does that mean all men behave that way? No, it does not.
No, it does not.
Exactly.
Are you serious?
For any group.
Because you know, like rape, prime example, like rape. Do you know like rape's acceptable in a lot of countries? Like they don't see it; they see it as a woman's fault. It has nothing to do.
Yeah, we know. They're called Muslim countries.
That's not true. These rape victims here. Look at their friends.
Yeah.
Bill
Those are
Clinton
all
went.
Muslim
Wait.
countries.
Let me
Bill
explain
Clinton
really
went
quick.
to the
I need
UK to go
I
rape
need to make it
kids. Like
clear.
that's
I
just
was
power.
not laughing. I'm not laughing about rape. I'm laughing because fucking Joel keeps going. Yeah, we know.
I don't laugh
Yeah.
about rape.
I'm not laughing about rape. I'm laughing at his response to you. Oh my god.
I
Okay,
may
so
get turned on by it, but not laugh.
no.
I don't know which is worse.
Well, I mean, all women have a rape
Oh,
fantasy.
please
Okay.
do not
As
act
long as
like
it's a
you've
fantasy.
never broken
Then-
into your ex's house and had sex and like haven't been turned on by that. Like,
Broke
get
into
out
her
of here.
house?
What?
You've never had like,
Are you asking me
Allison,
if
I
I've
love you
done this?
so much right now.
Because I feel like she's going to be
that got
really
real quiet.
surprised when I say no, I have not done that.
Yeah, he believes in
Everyone
Jesus.
had-
Jesus, I'm pretty sure it's
and
got
I
like a
believe in
verse in the Bible that says don't rape or something. Oh no,
Yeah.
wait, that's right. The Bible's. I don't want to go there. Because the Bible's a little iffy when it comes to rape sometimes. So
The Old Testament
Um,
specifically.
That's
right, we'll
That
just
was a
leave that one alone.
different time.
I went down a path I don't want to continue down. I'm gonna turn around.
That's a
and
rabbit
back
hole we
out
can
of
go
that
down
one
some other
quick.
time.
But no, rape is bad, and I think a
Yeah,
lot
everyone
of
here in
third-world
this country
countries
agrees rape is bad.
understand that rape is bad.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just talking about how other countries, the men have like, you guys were talking earlier about how privileged women are. In America, in
Western.
general, women are not privileged.
Eastern women.
They are privileged in
said
certain
The
ways.
world,
he said
but in
Western.
the
He never
world, we're
said.
more privileged.
Yeah,
Right. And that's what I'm talking
she's
about.
disagreeing.
Agree with you. The majority. What?
She's disagreeing. She says yes that she knows that you're talking about the Western women and that here in America women are not privileged. That's right, Allison. That's what you were saying.
Right. We're not
That's
privileged.
patently false.
We're
That's
privileged.
absolutely
We're
not true.
privileged to the world of women and how they're treated. But women in general, since the fucking Bible, have been treated below man.
I don't entirely agree with that. I
Yeah.
understand that there's
What
been.
are you talking about?
You can
Oh
make
my
the
God,
argument
even in
that
the God-
women
What are you
on
talking about?
as a whole are less
Even in the
privileged than men as a
Bible.
whole, but you cannot say that they are not privileged. Like, and I
Yeah.
like there's an act like I mean I
Men
talked about this earlier.
are
Like
privileged.
women have
Men are privileged. Like
you
prime
cannot
example,
say that like
our president-
women-owned
wait.
businesses
In
getting
our
specific
president
preferential
history, have
treatment
we
from the
ever had a
government is
female
not a privilege.
president?
Like you
In
can't say that's
our
not a privilege. It is a
president's
literal
history-
privilege.
Okay,
How
hold on.
are men
Like, and that's
privileged?
just one example. It's a very small example.
I'm going to give you an example, right? So, in this country of presidency, right? How many women presidents have we had? None, not one,
means
except
nothing.
for one wife. No, wait, hold on. For one wife who ran the country for her husband who had a stroke and he was incapable of it, and no one knew about it. And when they found out, they were like, "Oh God, she's going to fuck up the country." It's men thinking that they're better than women. They naturally think that. And so men treat women like they are less than. So you sexualize women. You treat them like they're beneath you. Yes, that is a male.
So I love the whole men were sexist 100 years ago, therefore men are sexist now. That does not follow at all.
Dude, men are just pigs in general.
Oh my God.
Not
I mean,
in general. There
You
are.
can fuck right off with that.
There are.
Yeah.
Listen.
There are men.
there's
Okay,
something to
answer
that, I know.
Oh, Adam, answer me this. How was Adam created?
Oh my gosh.
From dirt.
Yeah,
Okay. And then how was a woman created?
from Adam's
Which
rib.
one? Do you mean Lilith
Rib.
or do you mean Eve?
Eve.
Eve.
From his rib.
Eve was created from his rib because Lilith fucked up the whole thing.
No, because God fucked up the whole thing, realized that he fucked up with men.
No,
He made them
Lilith out
from
of the
shit.
sea.
He made
Lilith
them from soil.
I don't
Listen,
think that's
he
how
made
the
them
Bible
from
words
soil.
it.
He
But maybe that's
made
just
them
me.
from soil. What happens in soil? Animals piss and shit in soil. So he made man 100% out of shit. and then only one rib.
This is
to
the
make a
hottest
woman.
take on the Bible
He
I have
knows
ever heard,
that.
by the way.
Right?
Wait a minute. Are we talking about this as though it's literal? Like literally, you think
I
Adam?
think she is. I
There was
think
an
she
Adam,
is.
and he was made from dirt. And you literally
Yeah.
think there was an Eve,
I
and she
think
was
God
literally made from
realized
a rib. You don't think that that's
God. Listen, God is
like
a very
I'm a Christian here, and
vain
I think
God.
that a lot of that is allegorical. Like,
Yeah,
Yes.
that's totally allegorical. Like that's
Joel,
not.
you're
We're
not
not supposed to be
funny.
taking that literally.
Why?
Also, I don't think it really
God
has anything
realized
to
that
do
he
with men
made.
today.
yeah, also has nothing to do with what you
Yes.
were talking about.
Listen, God created man.
This is
God
insanity.
created
You are.
man.
she is so high right now.
I swear to God.
I really, really am.
Okay,
But
yeah. See,
Hold on. All right.
God created man.
Uh huh.
Okay, so he created man, and then
Wait. Are you
realized
even a believer?
what
Wait, hold on,
worthless bitches they
hold on.
were, and then had to
Do you
create
even
women.
believe?
God
in
realized that he fucked.
Are you a believer or are you an atheist? Which are you?
I believe in a higher power. I can
Oh,
like.
okay. All right.
Cop out.
I mean, I'm baptized Catholic, but I'm not judgmental like Catholics because I believe every religion should be respected. I honestly believe.
Everything that you have said tonight in this fucking episode screams otherwise. The
Yeah.
fact that you I'm not judgmental like other fucking Catholics. No, you are.
But also
exactly
all men are
like other
like
Catholics are
You are the
very.
most judgmental Catholic.
I'm not
I have
judgmental,
ever
but
heard.
all men really want to rape women. All men are really just pigs.
Listen,
But I'm not
Oh my God,
judgmental. No
men
judgment here.
of
None at
power.
all.
No, it's weak men who want to enforce power. That's what rape is really from. It's not sexual at all.
That's not true.
It's
That's not.
a
It
sexual
is
act, isn't it?
true.
It's fundamentally
No,
sexual.
no.
It's not true. If that were true, then
Listen, I work with goddamn serial rapists, and it's all about control and power.
I mean, yeah,
Because
that
you
can be
can't give a
true, but you
rapist
can't say it's not
that will
sexual.
fuck them
Like,
for
that's
no
just
reason.
dumb.
No, because they are sexually turned on by power.
Which makes it sexual.
Which makes it sexual, exactly.
Yeah.
But there are men. Okay, there's a just as an example.
But
There was there was a refugee.
unstable.
Whoa.
That was some bass.
You're.
Oh, don't even go there. Don't act like all rapists and serial killers don't have some type of mental dysfunction. That is ridiculous.
No, look, there was a refugee over in, I want to say, Norway. I think he was from or somewhere, and one of the Middle Eastern countries. He was at a public pool, like an indoor public pool, and decided that he was so horny and so deprived, he just grabbed a fucking 10-year-old boy and raped him. Because and then he was like, I'm sorry, it's just my culture. I was horny and I had to release that. I wasn't in my right mind because I was being controlled by my urges.
That story is one of many.
That's not a power thing. That's just I'm horny and I want to get off. That's why you've got guys who are like, oh, there's a sheep there. Oh, fuck that. To say that the majority of that there's a power element to rape, absolutely. Certainly for some rapists, it becomes all that there is. Like, hey, I like this, not so much because of the sexual part, but because of the power part. And maybe that's more of the reason why they do it. But the majority of rapists are doing it
because they want something they can't. So it is power.
Yeah, but
we never said it wasn't power. We just said it is sexual because it's sex. You can't say that sex isn't sexual. It's sex. It's fundamentally
when I
sexual.
Say sexual, I am talking about in a normal way, like the way most of us are sexual.
Well, of course it's not normal.
Violence.
It's rape.
When you're mentally unstable, you're sexually aroused by things. It's not technically sexual because they don't have those inner emotions to even be like in a real relationship. So you see what I'm saying?
No. I don't know that I agree I don't know that I agree with that. I think you're dealing with people, not always, but the majority of these cases, I think you're dealing with people who come from a culture where sex is viewed as such a hands-off thing that it's suppressed, and you've got natural urges and men who don't know how to cope or deal. They have no mechanisms, and they're not taught what to do with this. And so they go and they do these things because they're like, well, I have to do something about it, right? And maybe I'll just go and get off, and I'll fuck an animal, or I'll fuck a kid, or I'll fuck this woman who didn't, I won't even ask her, and I'll just run away. I think that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with natural urges, but you're dealing with men who aren't educated on how to deal with those urges.
They were most likely abused, but they have mental issues.
That
like
happens
I said,
too. That's probably true.
Sexual. And so that's how they react the way they're brought up. It's a product of their environment.
Right. But and Nicole just said it. All of these elements are true. And I agree with that. I think there are some rapists who, yes, it is all about the power. And I think there are some rapists who it's all about the sex. And I think there are some rapists who are made that way because they were preyed upon when they were kids, like you just mentioned. I think all of this is true. I think sex is kind of it's a bag of
cats. But it's a struggle. Because do you hear about women serial raping men?
Not often, no, but it happens, but no, not often.
Because women don't try to outpower.
Because women do. Hold on. There's no woman
emotionally, but men fuck with women physically. There's a difference.
There was a study done,
obviously.
There was a study done where, like a legitimate, like a Berkeley study where, and I don't know if it was specifically Berkeley, but I know there was a study done by like an Ivy League school where they had some guy walk into a bar and ask every woman he saw, hey, would you like to come home with me and have sex with me? And they put a woman in there and had her do the same thing with all the men. More than 80% of the men said yes. Do you know how many of the women said yes?
How many of those men were traumatized or brutalized like females are? Like, seriously, you are literally comparing apples to like raisins.
No, I'm not. I'm comparing supply and demand. Like, there's no woman who can. There's no woman who can't get herself a dick. Like today, now, you can walk out your door and look and find a man walking on the street, point to your vagina and go, ugh, and he'll probably fucking get it and come over.
Absolutely. And because women are guaranteed to get fucked. Men aren't.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah.
That's why men rape for power. Because they know. You better go.
This whole conversation is just one giant non sequitur to another. Like, it's just like, yeah, okay, we agree on something. Now here's something completely unrelated, and it proves it. Wait, what? No, that's not how this works.
I told you guys that I was high.
Oh, we can tell.
If men are just a bunch of pigs and rapists, then how come I'm not? How come I?
ACL. That's why I really did. I injured my knee, so now I'm heavily medicated.
Yeah. You need to. You need to.
No, I went into a store. No,
you're way too woke when you're high.
Yeah,
need to tone that wokeness down.
You know what? If this is how it is, like, I'm starting to be against pot now.
Yeah.
No, because I'm
bring back Jeff Sessions.
It doesn't have Dilaudid in my system. I mean, seriously.
You have Dilaudid in your system right now?
I tore my ACL.
Man, you've just been having horrible luck lately.
How did you tear your ACL? Were you avoiding rape? Were you running away from a rapist and you accidentally tore your ACL?
I would never run from a rapist. Trust me.
I'm not sure how to take that.
Yeah. You're not
He's
sure
gonna
how to
stand
take that,
around.
but she's the one that has to take it at that point. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love you so
Yeah.
much, Allison. I really do. I can't get enough of you. Oh.
Allison is the lay down and starfish type.
Gosh, Nicole.
Those
I
listening who
am.
can't
I turned into that role play stuff. That's wonderful.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was supposed to say that I'm against rape about
I mean-
other people.
Are you?
I'm
She's
about
not
to
starting to wonder at this point.
She's not.
There's
I'm gonna-
people, yes.
That's what's so funny
I
about
am
it.
against it with other
Contradiction.
people. Just not me. But I'm against for other women getting raped.
Wow.
Okay. This has been eye-opening.
Everybody needs to tune into this fucking show right now.
Yeah.
Every-
Oh, man.
If you
Coming
have
from a
friends,
guy who eats
everybody listening right
shitholes and
now,
what
go
have
out
you.
into the world, go
He
back
has
into
little
fucking
crusty balls in his
Facebook
beard.
and bring people into this fucking chat right now. They need to be listening to this. This is amazing. This is quickly becoming one of my favorite shows.
And a shout out to Jack. Stop laughing at my accent. I already know that you've been a
We love your
giant
accent.
role play. No, he's sitting there like mocking how I say.
Oh, yeah. They're just typing out, like, the literal pronunciation.
Yeah.
Like,
I love the way you say
Neva, N-E-V-A-H.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
No,
say
but no,
five.
Jack is exactly right, though. You do become a living Huffington Post article when you get high.
Yeah. No, he's
Listen,
right.
I have a stressful job.
Can you say the word butt
Getting
fucking in the most in the thickest Boston accent you can muster?
Every city has a different accent, just so that you know, like in Boston.
Oh, I guess not. That was the answer.
But fucking
I'm not gonna even acknowledge that. Oh, that's too bad. I wanted to hear it.
He said
She
it.
said it.
She did?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
just talk too much.
Oh, yeah, that's probably
thank
true.
you. Thank you, Adam.
Oh, you just made a friend in her.
For now. I don't know.
No, he said the one thing no one else will say, which is you talk too much.
Oh, I joke about that all the time.
Everyone jokes.
Like, anytime
Oh,
Josh would get kicked before, I would joke about taking over the show for myself, staging a coup, and then he would come back. And then it goes back to
I
business
always
as usual.
assumed it was California flicking off his lights just to get him to calm down a little. You know, like when a puppy's
possible.
wild in a kennel, you just cover it up and it calms them down.
There would be no point to turning off my lights because I would still be able to see thanks to all the fires that are happening here.
All right.
Yeah.
Plus,
natural
you're
light.
so close to the ground.
What does that have to do with light?
Well, you have less smoke in your airspace.
Who's Shim Sham?
That's Christian.
Oh, is that Christian?
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew he was among us. I didn't know which user
Oh,
he
man.
was. I guess by process of elimination, there's like 2 possible ones that he could have been.
Hey, Christian,
But-
hold on. Everybody's turning matrixy for me. Is it just on my end?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just you.
All
Yep.
right, I gotta back
Christian,
up.
are
On
you
the
in a
receiving
position where
end,
you can
like
actually like
usual.
be unmuted?
Whew, wow, it's bad. All right, I'm gonna back out. I'll see you guys in
Okay.
On
Okay.
the receiving end.
Hey, Nicole Cannon, this is me. This is Joel. So this is what I sound like.
Yeah, he doesn't have the magical Adam voice.
Sadly, no, I don't have a magic.
It's not too bad though.
I have a magic tongue.
Way to self-promote there.
Well, you know, you're not doing it, so.
True.
All
Yeah,
right.
we should unmute Christian.
Yeah.
Yay.
And we should probably mute Allison.
All right. Allison is muted. Christian is unmuted.
Hey, what's up? I'm moving to my desktop right now
Hey.
because my phone's gonna die.
Right on.
We're on different computers.
Oh yeah,
Oh man, that shit was hilarious.
I know.
Sorry,
Oh
I
my
stole your
God.
line about
the hell did I
peak
just
woke.
listen to?
No, it's all right.
No
dude.
one
Also-
knows. No one knows what we just listened to. But it was wonderful.
Here in my hotel. I'm just sitting here in my hotel room in Cleveland, and I'm just like, what?
Yep. Pretty much our thoughts.
Yep. Yeah, and
Gotta sell more Bibles tomorrow.
you get to sell
Fuck
more
yeah.
Bibles, Bram?
Yes, Bible salesman now.
So
Yeah, I knew that.
while you're doing that, flip through the very first part and make sure that God wasn't just like, yeah, I screwed up on this. I'm gonna create women. I'm pretty sure that wasn't his wording, but I just want to double check.
I always interpreted it. I also have a degree in comparative religion, so
Yeah.
I interpreted it kind of Kabbalistic.
You
I'm
what?
gonna switch over, so you might unmute me again.
Okay,
I
yeah,
don't know.
I'll keep an eye.
Yeah. So go ahead, Bram. What were you saying? That your views
Well,
are Kabbalistic?
I always viewed the story of I view the story of the whole Genesis story as Kabbalistic, in that you have Adam as this perfect being that is then to descend and go into the physical world has to be split in two, so we have the polarity of gender.
Yeah.
That's
makes-
just me, and I'm weird.
Not as weird as what we just heard.
Yeah.
It made a lot of sense to
That
me.
that is not nearly as woke of a take as Allison's. So
No.
I'm gonna need you to read more Huffington Post, smoke a lot more weed, and come back.
So
Yeah.
do you have quotas, Bram?
I get assigned to work out of a new church every week, and I have basically a quota, for a money quota. I have to sell X amount of dollars worth of.
Okay. So you move around a lot for your work.
It's all within the state I live in. It's all mostly in Iowa, a little bit in southern Minnesota, and a little bit in Wisconsin, but I just mostly drive a lot.
Yeah. You're on the road a lot. That would drive me crazy, having to be on the road all the time. But I'm pretty much a homebody.
Yeah, I am when I'm home, but I don't really have any family or loved ones, so.
Wow, that's fucking sad.
I know.
Well, my closest family members live on the East Coast.
So you don't get to see them too often, huh?
Oh no, that's the way I like it. I don't get I'm the odd duck out.
Yeah, I'm a little bit too close to my family. We're in the same town, and it can be a little much at times. Joel can confirm that.
Can confirm.
Yeah.
Adam, where are you in again? What state?
Texas.
Oh, you guys are all in Texas?
Yep.
Damn.
Yeah, me, Joel, and Adam are in Texas.
So right now I am about 3 hours away from Joel and Nicole. On the weekends,
Yep.
I am maybe an hour and a half
Yeah.
from them.
You guys should hang out.
Yeah, we really do need to get together IRL.
I know. We really do.
Starting in January, I will be living in San Antonio, which, how far away is San Antonio from you guys? Hour and a half? 2 hours?
It's not far. It gosh.
Yeah, it's maybe an hour and a half. It's
Yeah.
Okay.
really not far at all. It's like 86.
Oh, and
Adam
Adam.
Wood lives in San Antonio.
Oh,
Yeah, we need a meetup.
Yeah,
We
I
need
know.
a
I thought
real
you were on
meetup.
the east. I thought you were on the Gulf Coast, Adam. I guess I was wrong.
Apparently so.
That's an hour the way we drive up here.
Yeah. Well, I know, and
Yeah, it's the
yeah,
traffic that'll
both
get you.
Adams are Aggies, so
Dang.
it's also cool.
That is cool.
Well, I don't know if that's cool.
Oh, shut
It is.
Soul.
You're Adams or what?
Went to Texas A&M.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
Aggies.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever. Is that a good place to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Very good.
Right on.
Yeah, I kind of wish I'd gone there and gone to veterinary school or got some type of degree in agriculture instead of the shit I did get.
Oh, Jack met Clarice and her hubby. I forgot about that. How'd that turn out?
Now we're waiting for Jack to type
I
out.
know.
Pretty damn good.
Pretty damn good. Right on.
Ooh.
Nausea. Ooh, Sarbombas.
Eh,
Shots fired.
we're used to that. We're used to that kind of response. It's okay. They hate us because they ain't us.
Oh my god.
They
They're
hate us
so
'cause they ain't us. So, real quick, I want to give a shout out. I want to tell everybody about a new YouTube channel I found. It's brand new, and it's fucking hilarious. It's called Girlfriend Reviews, and for any of you who play video games or have men in your lives that do play video games, this channel is fucking amazing. It's already getting it's got a lot of viewers already. It's gotten like 10,000 views, and I think the channel just went up like a few days ago. It's got 3 videos on there. The first video was the thing about these are they're not video game reviews. They're reviews from the perspective of the girlfriend of what it's like to live with somebody playing a certain game. And that's what makes it so unique and kind of interesting. She talks about Red Dead Redemption 2, and she says, like, all of her boyfriend's been playing it for 3 weeks. All of his time is consumed by this game. And she says he plays it so much, he's even beginning to talk like a cowboy. She says he came to bed late one night, and I got mad at him about it. And he tipped a non-existent fedora and said, "You're all right, girl."
Oh my god.
That reminds me.
What?
I was going to say that reminds me of a post I saw in Libertarian PC group. I guess it was a screenshot from Reddit, and a guy, he's playing Red Dead Redemption 2,
right?
And he's playing it, for hours and hours, and so he's kind of taken on the persona of one of the characters, right? Like it's really gotten into him. So he was at a bar, and he started talking and acting like this guy, the character, and he got fucking laid because of it. And yeah. Because it's like completely opposite of who he actually is. He's really just a nerd who's, has no self-confidence. And instead he became a fucking bank robbing cowboy, and he got laid for it.
Wow. That's probably the first for a video game to get someone laid. Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny because everybody and their mother is playing that fucking game. And for good reason. Like, she talks about the game. She says, this is what your boyfriend will be like. She goes, what it'll be like for you is, she goes, I'm not going to lie, the game's beautiful. There's so many beautiful things to look at and places to go. She goes, but there's a lot of violence. She goes, I don't know how many hours and how much money they spend digitally recreating what it's like to kill woodland animals, but she's like, you hear a lot of animals wheezing and giving their dying breaths and watching you just cut open she goes, and for some reason this game really hates albino things, because all the legendary, there's this series of legendary animals that are all beautiful white large versions of whatever animal, like a moose and a bear and this. She goes, and the game really wants you to kill them. Your house will be filled with the sounds of shotguns. And she goes, and there's some guy in there who says, I have a plan, like 600 times. And it's Dutch. For those who know the game. And she gives this like montage of all the times he says, I have a plan, and it's fucking hilarious. But she's got a review of that. She's got a review of Fallout 76, which I've heard things about, but I haven't played it or anything like that. I've kind of avoided it because of all the drama.
Yeah,
it seems connected to it.
Really bad.
What's the drama?
Well, so the engine's old, as I understand it.
Okay, so Bethesda is notorious for their bugs, but the thing is, they typically make single player role playing games, and the nice thing, the reason people like Bethesda games is they're very open world. So you're on the map and you're free to explore wherever, and that's just a cool thing. And also the other thing is the mods. These games, like Bethesda, is very friendly to modders. They even give them the tools to mod the game, and so a lot of the game breaking bugs end up being fixed by the community. Fallout 76.
Oh wow.
Yeah, this is a real thing. So Fallout 76 though is a multiplayer game. It's online and you play with other people.
There's no single story. There's no single story really. There's no NPCs in the game. Everybody in the game is a living. It's somebody else playing.
A real person.
Yeah. So these bugs cannot be fixed by mods because it's a multiplayer game, so there's no modding it.
Yeah.
And apparently the bugs are even worse than they have been in the past for these games.
Yeah, she goes over.
It used to be kind of cute in a way, where it's just oh Bethesda, you're doing your thing again, and it's adorable.
It's not funny anymore. It's not.
But this is just it kind of crossed a line with this.
Yeah,
and this is speaking as somebody who has not played the game at all. I'm just kind of regurgitating what other people have said. But
same. I haven't played it, and I don't intend to.
Yeah.
The thing I love about the Bethesda game is that you don't get those kind of games anymore. It used to be everything's multiplayer now. Everything's an MMOG.
Yeah. Or Battle Royale is the real trend.
Or Battle Royale.
Or Fortnite and PUBG.
And so to have a single player story game where it's just you and you get to roam around and you get to explore and you get to, there's a storyline that you can follow, and there's side quests. There's something, I don't know, not cathartic, but it's peaceful. It's just I don't have to deal with anybody else.
Exactly.
And that's nice. I like doing that. And for them to kind of remove that entirely, it's just what the fuck?
Well, I mean,
you guys are the only ones.
You can't really blame them for trying to cash in on what
everybody else is doing.
I mean, how many Fallout games are there? Regular Fallout games? There's 5 or 6, right?
Well, so Bethesda took over after they took over the license from Interplay. Interplay made Fallout and Fallout 2. And then Bethesda got the license, came out with Fallout 3. There's also Fallout Tactics as well, but that's not real, and Brotherhood of Steel, but that's not really, people don't talk about those. Then
those are the
before this
ones,
Fallout 4. So 4 main games, and then now 76 makes a 5th. So
wasn't there a Fallout Vegas?
Oh yeah, New Vegas. New Vegas was not made by Bethesda. That was
okay, but it's still
that was the same
Fallout
engine as 3, and they licensed that out to Obsidian.
Okay,
great game though.
Yeah, great game. They're all great.
Yeah, Fallout 3 was amazing. I loved. Dude, I wasted so much time on that fucking game.
Same here. I've played through it multiple times, and
playing. I loved playing through Pittsburgh, the Pit.
Yeah,
loved it.
Yeah, that was a fun DLC.
Yeah. So, but yeah, she goes over that, and she goes over how funny it is to hear him bitch about things and come and get her and say, "Look at this," as pointing out the bugs in the game, and she's like, "And it's worth it because look at this." And they're showing bugs, some of the bugs that you can encounter in the game as she's explaining this. They're really good videos. They're maybe 5 minutes a piece. The third video is Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man PS4 game.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious because she says it's so entrancing watching, as you're watching play, and he's zipping around on spider webs, on his webs as he's going through New York, and it's just this entrancing experience. And she says, and seeing him like swing around and perfectly time things and then land into some sort of crime that's happening and take out the bad guy, she's like, wow. She goes, you'll sit there and say, wow, am I really dating Spider-Man? And she goes, but then she goes, my boyfriend went to go poop and handed her the controller and said, just hit R2 and go that way. And she said, and you realize the game does most of the work for you. she goes, so I looked at my boyfriend and said, Spider-Man, more like one button man. Which I thought was funny.
The Spider-Man game does look really cool. I'm not gonna lie. That's
one of the very pretty game.
Yeah,
there's quite a few bugs. She talks about how I didn't even know this. There's apparently whole sections of the game where you play as Mary Jane.
Oh,
and
wow.
she talks about how her boyfriend was upset about that, saying, I didn't spend $60 to play PS4 Mary Jane.
I mean, what the fucking Mary Jane do?
Well, there's these, I guess, missions where you play as Mary Jane sneaking around, and that's all you do. So she talks about how going from zipping through and jumping down and
going from being a superhero to just being a normal person has nothing to do with men versus women. That's not what this is about.
No, just a boring fucking character.
Now you're just crouching down and you're hiding in the dark and you're trying not to bump the cardboard boxes. She goes, the entertainment value drops dramatically.
Yeah, I can imagine.
She says it's
you know what that is? That is them trying to be inclusive.
Yeah.
You think that's the diversity?
Absolutely.
Quota?
There's no other reason to do that.
Yeah. It's called we want diversity, and also we don't want to pay for the license to license out a female superhero to include in this game.
That's too funny. Yeah, so I highly recommend going and watching that channel. The videos are very funny.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Red Dead to come on PC. I mean, Grand Theft Auto was like, I mean, the Rockstar games are typically on about a 7-month delay before they hit PC. So,
are you
hoping it'll happen? But what?
Are you like a PC gamer?
I am. Yeah, I built my rig
Who is
this
that?
summer.
Is that Christian?
Yeah, that's Christian.
Me.
Here, let me
Hey, man,
turn you up.
Jesus Christ, you're the quietest chalupa I've ever heard.
I think it might be a technical issue, but I guess I'm.
Yeah. I mean, I can turn you up on my end, so on the recording you'll be fine. But everyone else would have to adjust on their own.
Are you mainly like you play like Steam games? You play Blizzard stuff or what kind of stuff?
Mostly RPGs. So I'll play any like of the like BioWare or Bethesda or stuff like that.
That's cool. I really like RTSs, but none of my friends do.
RTS? What's that stand for?
Real time strategy.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so
like what games?
My favorite game is Company of Heroes. That's really fun. I play that all the time, but again, like none of my friends really like that kind of stuff, so I just play with strangers. You can play like StarCraft is like the big one. Most people know like StarCraft. Koreans freaking love that game.
Yeah. I mean, StarCraft 2 came out more than a decade ago, didn't it?
Yeah, and it's still fucking kicking.
It's still like huge. They need to make another one of those.
That would get them a lot of money.
Yeah. Because StarCraft 2 was huge when it came out, and it's still so big.
Isn't it still like crazy in Korea? It's not like South Korea. Don't they
Korea,
have
like
it's a huge thing over there.
They're like our athletes.
You know how we
like,
have the NFL?
They're so fucking glorified.
They have StarCraft 2.
Yeah.
No, this isn't even a joke. Like in Korea, I lived in Korea for 3 years. Like I've actually been to one of these things. They have what's called PC bang, which is bang is just Korean for room. So basically, it's just a place where you go and you pay a little money and you get to just play StarCraft on this. It's just an entire room of computers, and people will go there.
We have those. We have those here. We don't call them PC bongs, but
they're nothing like the ones they have there, I believe.
LAN rooms or
I haven't heard of that here, but it's
Party-
it's like
party
it was a
rounds.
popular thing, at least when I was living there, which was like 15 years ago, but still.
One of our malls out here has that. God, is it the Lakewood Mall? There's a whole section. There's like it's inside the mall. You can go in and just there's they've got like Xbox and PS4 and PC stations. You can play. You pay by the hour, and you can.
Yeah.
They've got games you can choose from. So you
Yeah, I
just
mean
go and
that's
you pay
pretty
for
much
the
how
time,
this
really.
worked. Yeah. Yeah, and I think I did that like once or twice, but
Those were what's funny is those were more those the first time that I remember seeing those kinds of places that set up computer rooms that you could play landline games on LAN or something like that was when Counter-Strike first came out, and that became big, and you'd have people and their friends who'd want to play, and they'd all go to these places, and it was the same deal. You just pay for the time, and then you'd all sit in a room together, all of you at your own PC, which was cool, right? You didn't have to be in your own separate houses. You could all be together.
yeah.
So,
I kind of miss LAN parties.
yeah, man, those were fun.
Josh and I are old enough to remember the old N64 and GoldenEye days, probably.
Yeah, well,
Fuck
I mean,
yeah,
that-
man.
N64 was my first console. I got that for my
okay.
5th birthday, I think.
I
Yeah.
had an N64. My uncle had a Dreamcast. I used to love playing that too.
Holy shit! No way.
Yeah, that
Dreamcast.
was so
Wow.
fun. And like a Sega
Yeah.
Genesis and stuff. It was cool.
Yep, Sega.
Yeah, I remember that's pretty much everybody's, I guess, first introduction to like real solid console FPS was the GoldenEye thing, and
Yeah.
everybody taking your shit and going. And I mean,
See,
I remember first time I did it, we went over to a friend's place, and we get there at like fucking 9 o'clock, and next thing we know, it's 4 a.m. We're like, oh shit! What the
Yeah, doing
fuck?
that whole split screen on our old CRT TVs. Where you
Yes,
can't really see
exactly.
anything on your section, but you're just like, yeah, I'm playing with my
Yeah.
friends and it's fun.
Yeah.
I used to have a. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
No. I used to have a group of friends that we'd get together on the weekends and we'd play games. And we would play board games. We'd play Axis and Allies.
Oh, I love Axis and Allies. Oh my
Yeah.
god. No one plays this
Fuck,
shit.
dude,
For
we
my
would bust out a game. We got so good at the setup and getting everything, like we knew how to play each different faction.
yeah.
And so we'd get the setup done, and we'd start our turns and we'd bust out we'd bang out a game in like 2 hours.
For my
So we played
18th
again.
birthday, for my 18th birthday, since my family owns a print shop, I asked for like a table tennis sized like map, like a game board, so I could play like a life size instead of having to use a small. I fucking love that thing, but I never get to use it because fucking nobody wants to play 6-hour board games anymore, I guess.
I know it bothers the shit out of me because I loved those games, dude. We played the board game version of Civilization. God, that was fun. There was a game called Shogun. I think now it's called Samurai Swords, and it was basically Japanese conquest, dude. All of these games took like hours. Civilization would be like a 6 to 8 hour game, and we'd fucking start at like 7, 8 at night and play all the way into the morning. Oh my god! And then of course when video games became more prominent, and you had a lot more of multiplayer options, like when Halo and Halo 2 came out, we sat and fucking shot each other in the face for hours playing Halo. Oh my god, that was so much fun.
Like I a couple months ago, I actually played
days.
Twilight Imperium. I don't know if any of you guys have played that, but that was a 6-hour board game. It's basically Risk with cards.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wait, Risk has cards.
Okay, with a more advanced card game kind of dynamic. Yeah, it's like a more complicated Risk is what it is.
I've not
but yeah,
lost
it takes hours, and it was fun. But it
I
is
have
a
not lost a
commitment.
game of Risk since I was 13.
Yeah, me neither. Like, it's been
I
a while.
fucking love Risk. I love Risk.
Yeah.
I've never played Risk, but I really want to.
No, it was
Oh
great.
my god! It's
No,
so
I remember
much
like
fun.
in
Dude, you like
elementary
Axis
school.
Allies, you'll love Risk. Risk is more simplified.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. It's like easier.
Yeah, it's mostly
Yeah,
just dice
it's
rolling
awesome.
and moving units on the
Mhm.
board, and that's about it. But yeah,
It's
like
a-
in
it's-
elementary
it's
school,
amazing.
my teacher would, instead of going to recess, some of us would stay inside and just play Risk with with like the teacher and everything, and we'd just have this Risk game going
Yeah!
for weeks at a
Fucking
time.
love.
Just play for
I miss
45
board
minutes a
games
day.
so much, dude. Oh my
Yeah,
god,
that was good times.
that's the greatest. And you know what? I'm gonna be real fucking geeky and nerdy right now. I miss tabletop RPGs too.
Yep, that's why I play
I
it.
miss that. Yeah, you still do D&D, right?
I run a Pathfinder campaign, and I am in a 5th edition D&D campaign.
Right on.
So
5th edition. Jesus Christ.
that's the latest one. Came out 3 years ago, I think, something like that.
Really?
I am a massive freaking nerd. So yeah.
Yeah. No. I'm with you on that. I used to, when I was a kid, I got introduced by the guy who raised me to D&D, and he'd play with his buddies. And you know, I didn't know too. I was so young at that point. But then they got into Heroes, which was a superhero tabletop RPG. And that's when I was a little older, and I started, you know, of course I was reading comics at the time. So of course I took to that. And then when I was in my teens, I kind of veered away from it, from tabletop RPGs for a few years, until I found out about Vampire White Wolf games. And that just appealed to me in such a way. It wasn't because it was Vampire. It was because, or what was it? Vampire the Masquerade. Did you ever play any of the White Wolf games?
No.
Oh,
as far as
man.
TTRPGs go, my experience is basically limited to D&D and Pathfinder, which Pathfinder is D&D 3.5, but more fleshed out.
Dude. So what I liked about Vampire was that you had a game based in, you had a whole mythology kind of fleshed out based in reality. Like they took the real world events and history and kind of connected them to this made up mythology. But it made sense. And so it was really fascinating the way they did that. And it focused on storytelling more than it did the mechanics of the game. So the dice rolls and you know, the dots on your character sheet did not matter nearly as much as the story itself and the character development. And that appealed to me in such a dramatic way. And then I found out that there were other games connected to the same sort of world. Like in the same world that Vampire existed, there were these other factions or what have you. So the Werewolf was the next one that I found out about. And again, this whole history laid out and this mythology connected to it. And then Mage the Awakening was the game that it floored me. It's so funny because with White Wolf games, the majority of players to this day are Vampire players. And as much fun as it is to explore the dark side of things and create somebody, you know, it's not therapeutic, but it's sort of freeing the first time you create something that is definitely a monster. You know what I mean? Like you're just, that decision's made for you. Like, I guess I'm a monster. Let's explore what that dark side of your id, as it were. And that can be interesting, but it can kind of it can get a little, it can take its toll, you know? And that wasn't really my thing. I wasn't all about.
Yeah, because sometimes you want to play the good guy.
Morbid. Yeah. So Mage became this, and that's the thing, is that Vampire, the the overlying tone of it was you're damned. So, do whatever the fuck you want, basically. There's sort of kind of rules, based on the, which faction you're in and which clan you belong to. And, but for the most part, it's like, yeah, fucking, you're damned. So who gives a fuck what you do? And so there's just no hope in that. Whereas with Mage, that was the whole thing of it, was you were fighting against hope was all you had in Mage the Awakening. And you had to figure out how to adjust your powers. Like the system, it's hard for me to explain. You couldn't just do whatever you wanted. You couldn't just like turn people into lawn chairs and throw fireballs. There were limitations to what you could do, and of course there were power levels to each thing. But it broke down reality and the basic parameters of reality into 9 different spheres of influence. So those were your different sections that you have any sort of magical powers in, which was like there was life, there was entropy, matter. It went through the gamut. It was just fascinating. Like you had these different factions there. The story that I mentioned in MeWe about the guy Kodiak, that was based on like sort of Mage the Awakening and a character idea that I had. Like that's a Dream Speaker, which is a mage faction. It was such a great game. I don't even know how to explain to you how much fun it was to tell those stories and be involved in that and develop those characters. That was the thing. As geeky as it sounds, it was just really interesting to create somebody who was so unlike yourself and put them in situations that you will never face, and really try and wrap your head around what would somebody do. What would you do in that situation? If you woke up tomorrow and found out that you had limited abilities to influence reality, you know what I mean? Like you could do things, maybe alter matter. You could maybe read people's minds. How would you react to that? What would you use those abilities for?
Money.
Yes.
See, but that's the thing. In these games, money is just a number. And
there's a greater
your drive
purpose.
to get rich is not nearly as much as it is in the real world. But
okay.
See, the thing with Mage was you were fighting for reality. Magic used to be back in the day, a much more prominent and easier thing to grasp because people believed in it, right? And then there was this whole faction of magicians who decided this was a bad idea because those magic users would exploit those who didn't have it. So they created this structured reality using science and made everyone sort of believe that magic was false, or it was, you can't just create fireballs out of thin air. You can't do that.
So they just
and that's the reason you can't do that. They're like, reality itself is telling you no, everybody believes otherwise. So you're fighting against a rigid reality that has been created by this faction who's trying to control you, and you're trying to free yourself from that. So it's this battle for belief, battle for reality, which is fascinating to me. But then
I don't know if you've heard of Dungeon World.
No, I haven't.
It's a newer system, but you mentioned like how you liked more of like the role playing kind of character interactions. I much prefer the character development to just rolling dice and seeing how much damage you do. Yeah.
That's your point.
I'm kind of the same way. Like my play group, we tried this system, Dungeon World, for a little bit. And it's the way it's designed is designed for role playing. It's not at all a combat simulator. It didn't end up working for us because just the way it was structured was we play online because we kind of are scattered across Texas.
Okay.
But it's definitely would be good in person, but
right,
didn't work online because we have all these people like trying to jump in at the same time, and you can't really look at each other and kind of have this kind of nonverbal like communication. You can't really do that online.
Like mudding. I remember when mudding was a thing. God, that's 90s. Yeah. That's late 90s.
But yeah, so we ended up tacking on some of the things we liked from that system onto the latest D&D, and that's kind of where we're at right now. We're like 2 sessions into this new campaign. But
right on.
Yeah. And then I've been running Pathfinder for going on a year now. So that campaign is
very cool.
Very deep into it, so it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, man, I miss those White Wolf games. I really do. I think they had capitalized on something that was so different. It's funny. I was watching somebody put out like an 1.5 hour long documentary about White Wolf, and it's kind of obscure. I happened to come across it when I was looking for new documentaries to download or whatever, and so I decided to watch it. And it was interesting because back when they first started, like they go through the, they were driving to a gaming convention. The guys who ended up creating White Wolf games and Vampire and the rest of them, before they had done that, they would go to this gaming convention and they would drive through Detroit. And Detroit, of course, we all know, is just this hollowed out husk of a city. And it just trashed. There's parts of it that look like it's been bombed out. And somebody in the car asked, like, Jesus, who would even live here anymore? And somebody, the guy in the back who ended up, was the creator of the game, was like, probably a vampire. And then he's like, dude, what if you were a vampire? Like, what if that were the game? So like that's that driving through Detroit
inspired ATTRPG. That is fantastic.
Right? So, and then they talk about how back then, these gaming conventions, especially the one they went to, they said before they created that, it was all geeks and it was all male. He said after they created Vampire, it set the tone. Like this was a game that could be played by men and women. All you really needed to find the game appealing was to feel like an outsider in your own real life. To kind of, for the most part, I'm sure people who weren't outsiders or didn't feel like outsiders in their real life were attracted to the game for their own reasons. But that kind of was who it attracted, and this kind of goth set of people. So they talk about how after they put out Vampire, they'd go to this gaming convention and they would put out this game and they'd have a gaming booth, and they said it changed everything because all of a sudden there were women at this convention, and they were all the women were coming to their booth, nobody else's. And so like all these guys were like, which only made everybody else who didn't have any interest in Vampire, all of a sudden now these guys were like, well, I want to know what they're interested in because it's the girls are interested in it.
Follow the women
in girls. So like I want to go over there. So it was really funny to hear that because I didn't know about that.
I pretty much resigned myself to because I also play Magic the Gathering, and anytime I go to like a Grand Prix or any kind of tournament, it's just like, it's gonna be a sausage fest, and that's just kind of how it is. I'm there for the game.
It's a guy thing.
I'm already married, so it's cool. Like I'm not. Don't have to.
You know where you find a lot of women? LARPing. Because they love to dress up.
Yeah.
But it's such a
which is and I guess that kind of crosses over with like cosplay in a lot of these like Comic-Con and stuff like that. Like a lot of the women that go to that do so to show off their costumes, and which is
exactly.
Cool. Dude, what's funny? Sexual objects. They're not trying to be sexual objects.
Definitely not. They're just dressing up as slutty video game characters just because it's an art form.
Hey, they make some money off that shit, though.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
I don't know if you've seen a lot of the girls who do the cosplay, but a lot of that cosplay is fucking scantily clad. Like those costumes are.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I went to one con. I went to a
Yeah,
Dragon
you
Con
took
in
a lot
Atlanta
of
when I was
pictures.
living there, and yeah, it's just nothing but just most of the cosplay is just chicks dressed scantily clad.
Yeah, I remember I
Yeah.
visited you in Atlanta not long after you'd been, and like you just had so many fucking pictures of women.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty awesome actually.
Yeah, it's so funny because those conventions used to be just geeks and nerds enjoying their hobby. Now you still have a section of these geeks and nerds who still enjoy their hobby, but then there's a section of geeks and nerds who go there half for the hobby and half for the girls, and then you got guys who go there for no other reason than the girls. Like, they don't give a
Yeah.
fuck about the hobby. They're like, yeah, these girls are dressed all weird and shit, and they're showing their stuff off. It's just it's such a different world now.
I will say Dragon Con is definitely more for the geeks than a lot of them because it features a ton of most of the stuff is writers and comic book writer. It's there. The number of actual cosplayers was actually a lot smaller than it is at some of the bigger ones that are more, the different ones. But it's definitely for the hardcore geeks for sure.
Wow. You know, it's funny. So, speaking about that documentary, they talk about how much influence White Wolf games and specifically Vampire had on pop culture after that. A lot of the club scene with the leather and the black and the latex and the dark foreboding techno music and all that shit, like that came out of the style that they set for that game. That had a major influence on that sort of fashion sense and that sort of subsect of club goers, whatever you want to call them. But also in movies, like they talk about Blade, the guy who did a lot of the artwork for the first Vampire game. They talked to him. I forget what his name. Timothy Street, I think his name is. They talked to him, and he reminisces about Blade, the first Blade movie. And he says, when I was watching it, I was like, wow, this looks familiar. It looks like something I once drew. Like he would take photographs of his friends doing things, and then he would create artwork based on those photographs. He says there's a scene where Blade kind of takes his sword and does this half circle with it in a very cool sort of stance. And he says, that came from a picture, I'm sure of it. And he says later down the road, like a year later, he would be talking to somebody who worked on that movie. And he goes, yeah, we totally had your portfolio when we were doing the set design for that film. Like, we robbed you blind. He goes, that's great. I wish I could have got paid for that since I influenced it. And apparently, what's his name? The Benicio del Toro, who ended up doing, I think, Blade 2. Called Tim Street up and then said, yeah, come with us and help us make this. I'll make sure you get paid this time, which is kind of funny. But then what I didn't know, there's a they talk about all these different movies and television shows that they had an influence on, and one of them is True Blood. Am I still there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, apparently True Blood was a big thing. Like, a lot of people watched it. I never did.
Yeah, I watched it.
So apparently there's a whole lot of the lore that they used in that show that is right out of the books, out of the Vampire the Masquerade role-playing books. Like, they just robbed them completely and didn't even call them, didn't ask for licensing.
Wow.
Nothing. They fucking one of the key components to Vampire the Masquerade. They were the first people to do this, and as far as I knew, up until I saw this documentary, they were the only ones to do this, who made the connection with Cain and Abel. Cain being the first of the vampires, like the curse that was brought down by God on Cain to walk the earth forever, and food will be ash in your mouth and all of that stuff. They twisted that in Vampire the Masquerade to be he was made to become a vampire. And so all vampires are descendants of him. Well, they do that in that show in True Blood, like flat out. They're like, Cain was the first vampire, and it's like, dude, you took that directly from that book,
Yeah.
and didn't fucking even bat an eye when you robbed them blind. Like they totally, and it's just they did that a lot. And the guys were talking about that. The guys from White Wolf were like, yeah, man, we got robbed a lot.
Yeah, no, there
but it
was
makes me want to watch that show now. Oh, that's the other thing. So there's like I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off, but I'll be brief. So apparently, it's not just that Cain was the first vampire that they stole. They stole things like I guess they have sheriffs. There's the structure, what would you call it? Societal structure that vampires exist within. In the books, there's princes, and I guess there's something like there's something else like a prince, but they don't call them a prince in True Blood. And then there's sheriffs who kind of run, they make sure everybody's following the rules, as a sheriff would. And they called them sheriffs in the show. So there were a lot of things that they took directly from the books. It wasn't just the one Cain is the first vampire thing. So go ahead, Adam. Sorry.
No, so you mentioned artwork just flat out being ripped off. So that reminds me, there was a Magic card that came out a few years ago, where the artwork, I mean, it's of a main character in like the Magic story. But this artwork is, and it's very, very obvious. I'll post it in chat here in a second. It's ripped off of a picture of Yolandi Visser from Onward.
Oh, really?
Yes. And they like
and
it
the
is.
Card, it's a Magic the Gathering card, or
Yeah.
That's so funny. The blonde chick from Diantward. Right?
Yeah, the little the girl with the squeaky voice.
The crazy looking chick.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's like a perfect match.
That group is
and
so weird.
It's huh? What'd you say?
I was just saying how that chick is so weird.
Yeah. I like their music though. I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, everybody who hears them is like, this is weird, but it's catchy.
Exactly.
Oh shit, I see.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I guess that is kind of similar, isn't it?
No, it's totally her. Like it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You're right.
And like people have even done like if you like actually like mirror the image and like it's proportionally they're exactly the same. It's so weird.
Oh yeah, you can see
how they ripped it off. Yeah, not just with like the super short bangs and everything, like the hairstyle, but just like facial proportions and like the way that she's kind of looking is just exactly the same.
The
it's so
skeletal
funny.
structure is very, very much the same. That's funny.
But yeah,
wow, they did rub that off.
Yeah, I don't know, but
man, yeah, it's just a bummer that people don't do tabletop as much anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, I get it. Video games are so immersive because you've got you don't have to use your imagination. But that was what was so fun about it, was that you could describe things and you get to make in your head whatever that is. You get to put your own slant on where you're at and what it looks like and what you look like and what the people you're talking to look like. It's not set in stone.
Yeah, they fill different roles, and that's the thing. And it took me actually several years to get into D&D. I tried it I tried it with my friends like once in college, and it was just like it was okay, but I just kind of preferred the video game aspect. But that was because I was like thinking that it was going to be just like a video game RPG, which I had grown accustomed to, and it's not. It's a completely different experience. Like the draw is the open-endedness. It's the interactions with other characters. It's like developing your own character with complete freedom.
That was what I loved. I started as a player and ended up becoming what in D&D you'd call a dungeon master. White Wolf games, they call them storytellers.
Yeah.
and that was the thing I loved, was creating NPCs that were unique and creating. My favorite thing to do was to create villains that were sympathetic. That, you know, the best kind of villain to me is a villain who believes that he's the good guy, that he's doing is right. And so, like, there was sort of an NPC. We were doing one game where this chick who was playing, she had a brother, and they were both on opposite ends of the spectrum. I mean, she was a mage, and he was a weird creature, and she had been gone. She left to go back to Asia to like train or whatever, and she comes back, and her brother is, you know, had to take over as man of the house and kind of protect not only his family, but so he's involved in kind of like an Asian gang, you know, in LA, and his whole point is like to protect the city or at least his neighborhood. And so as an NPC, I'm getting into an argument with this chick, and they're arguing over, you know, the right and wrong of it all. And he's like, you don't get to judge me. You took off to do your own thing. You left mom and me and dad. And now I'm fucking doing what I have to do to make it right and do what's right by any means necessary. And you don't get to come back here and tell me that what I'm doing is wrong. You can go fuck yourself. And we're going back and forth, and it's getting heated. And she starts crying, and I'm like, we need to stop.
Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, for a moment there, I was like, I'm very proud of the fact that we were able to get so immersed that she wasn't crying from her perspective. She wasn't mad at me. She was as though she got so invested in the character.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds crazy for those of you who are listening, but I mean, that's to me what character development's all about. Becoming the character for a moment.
I think those games are especially really good for families, like with kids and stuff. I think that's a great way to really connect and whatever with your kid. I've got a friend of my guy I went to high school with my brother.
Well, hold on. When you say those kinds of games, are you talking about tabletop RPGs?
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. A friend of mine, my brother, a guy I went to high school with, he actually he worked for one of the card gaming type of things, you know, and goes to Gen Con every year. And he actually developed his own card game, tabletop game deal, a fantasy one, specifically for like families and kids and stuff like that. And I've just seen on Facebook, you know, how much they enjoy the playing of that, and you know, it's a good it's a good family time.
I mean, because it's basically it's playing pretend, which kids do on their own.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's just there's a structure to it, and it's just like, oh, okay, like I can do this and have fun with my family. Yeah, no, I that's definitely something I'm looking forward to, like later in life when I have kids and everything.
And Joel, I think you've hit on a particular note about how tabletop role playing is so different from. There's things that has to offer that you can't get from video games or really any other medium,
right?
Because you're developing your imagination. Like you don't have any choice. If you're going to play that game and you're going to actually sit down and actually, you know, invest yourself in it, you have to develop an imagination. So it helps to do that. Whereas you don't have to do that when it comes to video games. Everything's provided for you. Yeah. All you're doing really is pushing buttons and looking at the pretty, you know, the pretty colors.
But at the same time, you're limited by what the game developers have programmed into that world.
For the video game, you mean?
Yeah, for the video game. Yeah.
Right.
And whereas with TTRPG, you're like, you want to do this weird thing? Great. And that was the funny thing is like having run the game for like a year now, I'm more used to it. But early on, I would kind of gauge, okay, where are they? Because like we do like a 2-hour session once a week online, and
all you do is 2 hours.
Yeah, but it's once a week. So like as my other campaign that I'm in is like 3.5 to 4 hours, but it's every other week. Because I mean we have jobs and everything, so we don't have a ton of time.
Fair enough.
But yeah, but yeah. So I would kind of, in order to prep, I would kind of gauge where they're at. Think, okay, what are they likely to do from here, and kind of plan around that. And then 50% of the time I would be wrong, and then have to kind of improvise.
That's the beauty of that. I love that about being a storyteller.
Yeah, because they would think of doing something that I never would have thought of.
Exactly. It was so fun to watch, a character, a player character, come up with a solution that you hadn't thought of. Like you can come up with, you can try and think ahead and think, okay, well they here are the options of what I imagine they might do. So let me, if they do this, I will do that, and if they do this, I'll do this. But there's always it never fails. Somebody goes, what about this? And you're like, son of a bitch, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, those are the best moments. I loved.
Yeah,
God,
no, I mean, even
much.
right now, they're like, so the story arc that they're going through right now is kind of like loosely Norse mythology-esque, but basically this country that they're in is at war with frost giants, and like there was like a war leader that was like basically like put in a coma by like in kind of basically waking him up would kind of turn the tide of this war. So I've kind of like made this like kind of mythical item that will heal him and everything, and but then they're thinking like, yeah, like let me like learn how to speak giant and try to see what the frost giant's motivation is. And I'm just like, huh, yeah, you can do that. Like it's like, all right, yeah, trying to negotiate.
I didn't think you'd do that, but
yeah,
all right.
No, it's just like, yeah, all right.
And then you're like, well, shit, what is his motivation?
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm kind of trying to work through right now. Had a good brainstorm. Like, this is the nice thing about driving like 3 hours every week is I get a lot of time to brainstorm.
Go over all that.
Huh?
Yeah, it gives you that time to go over all of that.
Yeah. I'll like listen to podcasts for half the drive and then just brainstorm for my campaign the other half.
That's hilarious. God,
yeah.
Well, that's awesome that you still have that going, man. I'm envious.
Yeah.
Jack asks, is anyone playing the new Doom? How new is that? I thought that was that months ago, or did they announce it months ago and it just came out?
Yeah, I haven't heard of that.
I don't know.
I don't know how new it is. I saw it I looked at Steam and they had it for sale for like $17. So I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, it was on the main page. I have no idea. Like I said, I just remember that actually works, so I can't really tell you.
I remember a month or two ago there was some controversy over the fact that they had commercials where they were presenting the demons as being misunderstood. Like there were, I forget exactly what it was. Something like, "Don't call us demons." Like we're they wanted some different pronoun, right? Like it was some like we're
kidding.
Damned, disabled, or something like that. Like it was so funny, and it was mocking the whole pronoun thing. Mortality challenged. Thank you. I knew it was something like that. Or more mortally challenged. So, like this was a joke in the commercial. Like, "Don't call us demons. We're mortally challenged." And of course, the SJW crowd got all up in arms, and they were like, "You're mocking us. That's not that's bullshit. Not nice." But it's funny. But of course I thought that it was out then, but I guess maybe that. I don't know. I haven't seen any gameplay or anything for it. Is it any good? Jack is gone, so he's not going to answer that, is he?
Oh well, that didn't help.
All right. So that's all I know about that game. I just finished because I've done all I can do on Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm at this point I'm just playing it to see the like the fucked up things I could do. I'm antagonizing. I'm just running through calling people names and making them run away. So now I ended up playing the Tomb Raider, the new Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which I thought was good. I'd seen gameplay of the first the reboot, which I forget what that one was called, like the Rise of the Tomb Raider or something like that, which was a few years back. And that looks like a gorgeous game too, but I never actually played it. I don't even know much about the storyline. I think she's something to do with Asia, I think. But this one was, oh man, it's a beautiful game. It reminded me a lot of the God damn it, what's the name of those games where you play this guy who's a treasure hunter and
Uncharted games?
Yes, Uncharted. Thank you. So Uncharted, of course, I always thought, well, you guys just took the Tomb Raider idea and then decided to make a much prettier version with a male protagonist. And now they said, Tomb Raider went, oh yeah, well, we can do better than that. So now you have this, and it really did. It reminded me sometimes of the scenery. It's a game. It's so pretty. And it's amazing at times you're looking at the screen and you're like, that's not a real person. That's so weird. Because the graphics are just phenomenal. And it was a lot of fun to play. I thought it was a lot of fun. Has anybody else
honestly
played it?
It kind of gave me kind of Assassin's Creed vibes. Just with like the climbing and
with the stealth attacks?
Yeah, the stealth and all that.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And the collectibles. Well, Tomb Raider always had collectibles. Did you see you could get the I was kind of bummed out. There's I think a total of 34 different outfits you can get. And some of them are retro versions, like you can play the version of Tomb Raider with the shorts and everything, but it's not outfit with the update. Right, but it's the classic look to the body frame too.
The polygons and everything.
Right, it's not her. It's not the new
triangle boobs
graphics. Yeah, see, which bums me out. I'm like, you guys are so afraid of being called sexist that you're here's that classic look that you like, but we're gonna keep it with the fucking that 1998 digital version of the character, because we're afraid of anybody saying that we're adding sex to the game.
Yeah,
and I get it. I guess back in the day they were accused of like making the character look that way just so that the boys who played it had something.
I was going to say that. Like, remember how controversial that was? And it's just like, dude, like this is the like if anybody can actually like get off to this, I would be impressed. Like, because the graphics just were not good. Like,
no,
like that old PS1
like
Tomb Raider, like triangle boobs, and like.
Yeah, no, it's so funny because I was looking for, a shorts version for with the updated graphics. None of them. All of her outfits have her in pants. All of them.
Oh wow!
They're so afraid of doing any. There is not a single skimpy outfit you can get. It's all like
that's weird.
Hardcore commando shit and just different colors of it. Like, her and her fucking boots and her camo pants, and it was just like, all right, I get it. You can't take it all out of there. Come on.
I mean, yeah, like I don't know, because like, where's the game is set in like a hot environment, right? Like,
yeah,
so even
you would think shorts would be
it would make sense,
viable.
Right? Like, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Or like at least her in her underwear.
Not really. You know? In jungle stuff, you don't ever want to wear shorts.
That's
always
that's fair.
Yeah. Take it from somebody who works outside. I made the mistake of like the first couple of times I went to the ranch when I was like first visiting down here.
Yeah.
I wore just shorts and tennis shoes. And I didn't realize even the weeds hurt. They all have like little barbs.
Yeah.
Scratch the living fuck out of you. I'm like, ow, Texas sucks. Everything hurts here.
Why does the state hate me?
Exactly. Yeah, literally. I mean, the fucking flora in this state, everything, all the flora here just hurts and wants to kill you and poke you and make you bleed.
On
really
the other
sucks.
hand, at least we're not Australia.
No shit.
Yeah.
Literally everything is trying to kill you.
Yes.
Crime Island is scary.
Oh, yeah, bull nettle. Oh, my God. It's the worst. Bull nettle is a weed that has literally thousands and thousands of tiny barbs that actually look like a little layer of feathers on the plant. And they will go through anything, jeans, everything. They go right through it because they're so tiny. And then they hook into your skin. And they hurt and they burn. And, yeah, they suck.
What the fuck, dude?
Yeah, but they're easy to kill, fortunately.
Yes. What is the purpose of that plant?
It's a weed.
Fuck that, dude.
I somehow have never seen this before, despite it being a Texas thing.
You're very lucky. Yeah. If you live in
but I also don't work outside for a living.
Right. Yeah. If you're not, if you don't go to farmland and rural areas, then you're probably not going to see it. But yeah, we actually had a whole pasture named. We still call it the bull nettle pasture because it was like full.
Oh,
I guess it's like 6 or 7 acres that was just full of bull nettle. Yeah, but like I said, fortunately with weed control, it's pretty easy to kill. So
time for a flamethrower.
Yeah, see, like the worst that we have to deal with is like just those stickers.
Yeah,
because stickers are actually one of the worst things for us because you can't use regular weed control on them.
Yeah,
Jesus.
Well, it's especially bad now that we have Oliver. Because he like there's one patch of like most of the patches of grass around our apartment are pretty fine, like they're pretty clear. But the one by the dumpster has stickers, and it took me a while to figure out exactly where they're coming from, but I eventually traced it to that because he just kept getting them. So yeah, my dog he would be like kind of hobbling, and I would just be like, "What is going on?" And then there would be like 6 stickers on one paw, and I'm just like, man, it like especially with like his breed and everything, he has like kind of long hair, so it just gets tangled and it's a nightmare.
Yeah, we always end up bringing them home, so we'll randomly step on them on the carpet as they fall off our pants and stuff.
Yeah.
And our pug, when he steps on one, he acts like his leg is broken. It's really sad.
Yeah. No, that's how they handle it because like they don't know what it is. Then because Oliver will just like kind of bite at his paw, and honestly, that just makes it worse because you don't want to bite those things. But yeah, like you just kind of have to.
Have you ever seen Wolf Creek?
Yes, so good.
Right? That's my favorite Crime Island movie. What?
Yeah, there's going to be a new series, or it is a new series on who's showing it? Okay, it's on Shudder, the streaming service, which is through Amazon. I don't know where it was originally, but yeah, the movie.
I love how they took somebody who was such a caricature, such a stereotype of, what we as Americans view of Australians, like, oh, another shrimp on the barbie, mate. And then they turned that fucking stereotype into a fucking serial killer, and you're like, Jesus Christ, this guy's not fucking playing around.
Right.
Oh, man. That's my favorite Crime Island movie.
Yeah, that's a really good one, actually.
There's a place I'd love to visit if I ever go, Adelaide. And the whole reason I want to go is because it's based on a song about Adelaide by Ben Folds. And I guess he went and loved it so much that he wrote a song. And I love that song. So now I want to visit Adelaide.
Oh, hey,
Right? That's a good enough reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to visit anywhere else, though. I've seen Wolf Creek. I'm not doing it. Plus, they have the size of your fucking face.
Right. Yeah, I just sent a picture of what bull nettle looks like. You can see all the feathery white stuff on it. It's got
And those are
pretty
little hooks?
Yeah, there are thousands and thousands of tiny barbed spines.
Do they break off and stay inside
Oh,
you?
yeah. They get, as soon as you touch them, they get right in you and come off. They sting like crazy.
What the fuck, dude? Fuck that plant.
Yeah, no shit.
Dude.
Yeah, I'd never known what it was. I'd heard, the name, the bull nettle and stuff, but I'd never seen one at the one ranch. And then at our place, we had a very small patch of it. And I was like, oh, what's this thing? It's all white. And I reached down and touched it. And I'm like, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah. Actually, come to think of it, I think I might have touched one of those once. Like when I was young.
Yeah.
Like it must have been a long time ago because I barely remember this. But yeah, I remember touching it because it looks fuzzy.
Right.
I'm not touching anything that's white. Fuck that.
But
just don't touch anything in Texas is pretty much the rule.
Yeah.
I have this one weed. I got it. You know what? We need to get off weeds. We can talk weeds all day. It makes it's boring for other people.
Hey, we just talked about geeky gaming and shit, so I'm pretty sure we've lost most of our audience.
Right.
At this point, we only have the most loyal among us.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Hey, it's
little did you know that was all a test.
If there's anybody who wants to hop on and say anything, ask us to mute you.
Jump in.
Just type in, hey, unmute me.
Oh, hey. There's one last thing I wanted to touch on. So I guess on Sunday, the EU officially accepted the whole Brexit thing. They're making a plan to make it happen.
Right.
They've got a divorce bill, is what it's being called.
Yeah, they have to pay him billions of dollars. Yeah.
Yeah, $50 billion, dude.
Right.
That fucking blows.
Yeah, it's big time, and I don't know. It's hard to make sense of everything because that's not my political climate. I'm not over there, and I don't know entirely how it all works, but it seems like not only are they going to be out of the EU, but they're going to have to follow the rules without being a member, at least for a little while, from what I understand.
Yes.
Which is kind of fucked. Like, wait a minute, wait. I have to obey your rules for a little while, but I'm officially
it's like that
not
was
a
the
member.
entire point of me leaving was so I wouldn't have to obey your rules.
Right.
So it's kind of dick.
Yeah, I forget what they call it. It's really hard to get a good a decent article that really explains all the details. It's really a pain in the ass. But they're going to have to go through that for several years.
Yeah, that's
right. Blah blah blah, and there's still going to be some things that they apparently are going to be under certain jurisdictions, supposedly. But it's.
Well, from what I understand, Ireland. This is the interesting part to me. Ireland will still be a part of the EU, but Northern Ireland will not, and they're trying to figure out how
and
to.
Northern Ireland's part of the UK, right?
Correct, which is why if Northern Ireland would Brexit along with Great Britain, and Scotland for that matter. But the interesting thing is they're trying to figure out how they're going to work. They want to maintain a connection between Northern Ireland and the rest of Ireland, despite this separation, and they're trying to figure out a way to make that happen without actually having to create a physical barrier like a wall.
Yeah, that's been one of the biggest sticking points of the thing is that whole question. And yeah, I think they call it the customs union or some shit like that. It's extremely complex, unfortunately.
Right.
And
one of the things I read about that I kind of impressed me, as far as Theresa May, like one of the things that she's been flaunting as a positive for Brexit, is that they'll no longer have to take all EU citizens in the UK. From what I understand, they don't get to live in they won't be forced to take EU citizens as to come live in the UK just because they want to or what have you.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't know that Theresa May was presenting that as a positive, which if she is, that makes me like her.
Well, it's not quite as, I don't think it's quite as simple. Like I said, I haven't read a final one, so you may be more up to date than me. But yeah, that was, because I think right now or under the EU, basically, if somebody comes from the EU and moves into your country and they get a job or whatever, and if they're there for like X number of years, then they are eligible for all your welfare services in your country, and they can become permanent resident. You can't kick them out. And yeah, that's sucked for England because you get a lot of shitty people coming. But
right,
again,
but I understand.
I don't think that's going to take years. Do what?
I think you're right, except for the fact that it takes years. If I understood it correctly, it was like they could move in and take advantage of the welfare benefits immediately because it's all under the same blanket of the EU.
No, because the welfare benefits are set by each country, but there was a certain, you had to reach a certain, unless you were a what do you call it, a refugee or whatever like that, or migrant, you're one of those people they just let in willy-nilly, then you're eligible immediately. If you were already an EU citizen, you had to meet certain requirements over a short period of time. I think it was no more than 2 years, and then you were eligible. But it still sucked for these countries because then you could just, you could come in and work a menial job for a while, and then all of a sudden, I get a council house for free in England and now I'm not going to do any work, and I'm just going to be a fucking slacker because I came from some shithole or some other country I didn't like or whatever it is.
Right. I don't think that the EU is a viable system. I don't think it'll work. Can work.
It was viable. It's not something that I would ever want to be in because of the heavy welfare state and all that kind of shit.
Well, but essentially what they're trying to do is adopt
immigration. Now they've fucked themselves so bad that they're screwed.
Right. The thing is they're trying to adopt a system that's similar to our own, and that's not going to work over there. And the reason it's not going to work is because you have countries with very different value systems, different languages, different cultures, and different histories, and you just can't tie them together the same way that we do with our states. The thing, it's a very different system because we essentially, as different as we, Florida and Montana are night and day, for example. However, go ahead.
No, I was just laughing.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something. No, but despite the differences, we hold, for the most part, similar value systems, same culture, same history, same language. There's those things tie us together, and that's what makes state and federal system work, for the most part. You can't have that over there. You just can't. You're not going to have. You can't tie those people together in the same way.
No, you're very right. That's why there's always been so much friction in so many ways in Europe over all this because of that. And that's why they have so many contradictory, because it's supposed to be, the customs union, which is or the free market basically, which is supposed to be, no tariffs, this, that, and the other for goods and services moving through the EU. And yet you have massive protectionism from every country on their own, things that they're trying to keep alive. Like, the French have, quotas. They give each country, okay, well, you don't have to buy, or you can set, limits to how much other countries can import your fucking wine or your this, that, or the other, so that your people your local businesses and industry can keep a leg up or, stay around, And so it's just a mishmash of just crazy, contradictory, insane stuff. It's not like here in the States where all commerce between states is completely free and open. It's just not like that over there, even though they tried to make it that way.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is that the way that their economy and their currency works is a little different. From what I understand, the EU kind of has this blanket policy where the currency is the same value in all. They're all using the euro, and it all has
the euro's euro.
Right, but the productivity in Spain may, for example, and I'm not saying this is true, I'm just making a hypothetical, might be less than it is in Germany, and therefore the currency in Germany should be of a greater value, like we have our state GDP, but it's not. You don't have that there, as I understand it. So you have this kind of, essentially, regardless of how productive one country is as opposed to the other, the value of their currency is the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really.
I mean,
work.
Ultimately, that would just reflect in different prices of goods across both markets.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's not something that fundamentally breaks things.
Yeah. It's a net positive for most of the countries, because having all the different, if you don't have to worry about your currency going tits up, or inflation on, or hyperinflation when you've got a shitty economy like, say, Greece or something like that, they are massively helped by having the euro as their currency, because they did not get fucked, which they would have. They would have been completely fucked if they'd had their own currency. So, and of course, it makes goods and services cost a lot less when you don't have to, exchange currencies and do all that other shit between countries. It makes everything a lot simpler. So they save a lot of money in that way. But of course, England was extraordinarily smart in not switching to the euro, because they were like, you know what? We like you guys, but we're going to keep one foot out the door just in case.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think this, as difficult as it may be in the coming years for Britain to actually separate itself from the EU, I do believe that this will have a domino effect. There are other countries who are already having issue with the EU, Poland being one of them. You have dissidents with some of the political parties in Germany who are expressing dissent and doubt in the EU, and the EU is some of the pro EU members are saying things or have said things that are rather alarming, and I think that doesn't help either. When they say things like, what that one guy say? We shouldn't be allowing it would make more sense. It would be a much better thing if all the countries under the EU just gave up their sovereignty and allowed us to take control. And it's like, did you hear what you just said? Like, that doesn't make anybody fucking feel safe or comfortable at all when you talk like that. Don't say those things. What are you doing?
Well, and part of that is us being Americans. We're used to, like, oh yeah, localized, like, separation of powers is a good thing. Like, we're kind of like raised that way growing up. You know? Like, whereas Europeans don't necessarily think that way. Just to play devil's advocate.
I mean, some don't, but I think
there's definitely a growing sentiment. Like, some of them are finally waking up to the, like, wait, is consolidating all the power in one central area a good thing? I don't know if it is. Like, and we're like, yeah, we've only been saying that since 1776.
Told you. So it's just an interesting. I really think that we're going to see the EU. I don't think the EU will be much of a thing if it even exists at all in 50 years. I really don't. Oh, that was a question I had earlier. Going back to the Mars thing, I had a question about what do you think? How long do you think it'll be before we put before we throw people into the sky?
We could do it whenever we wanted to. It's just a matter of money
and purpose. Like, what do we gain from having people there?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're getting pretty good at successfully landing there.
It'd be different with people anyway.
And 6 months time, like we can toss something in the air, and in 6 months, it'll reach Mars. That's pretty impressive. That's a short distance of time.
Yeah. Usually, I forget, there was one probe, I can't remember. I think it went to Mars actually. It was one of the outer planets anyway. And when they were doing their calculations for all the boosters and this, that, and the other, they fucking forgot to convert, like, from metric to standard or some shit like that, and ended up fucking just burning it right up into the atmosphere because they misplaced some decimals and shit.
Oh boy!
Yeah, can you imagine mistakes like that? Guy?
What's that?
I say, can you imagine being that fucking guy who did that?
Yeah.
Sarboma says it's imperial and metric was the issue. Was not converting between those two units.
With all the other engineers, and they all, like, can you imagine if they knew? Like, if it blew up and they just all, like, did the calculations in their head, and they all turn their head to you. They all fucking look at you like, we know you were the problem.
LaHood's got it. He says half the team was doing metric, half the team was doing imperial. Because the Mars order in 1999.
Wow.
Oh shit! Scott says his dad worked for Grumman and built the lunar module for Apollo 11. That's awesome.
That is awesome. Hey, you know what's funny? I was on Reddit and I was reading something where Reddit engineers were talking, and one of them mentioned how JPL, which stands for Jet Propulsion Laboratories, I guess they don't pay their engineers very well, like comparatively to the open market. Like, you're making 40 to 60K a year,
which for an engineer is not that much at all, especially
no.
The
That's
40s.
What I'm saying. Like, the engineer who was talking about that said that he used to work for JPL and made that little, was he goes, I was poor, and somebody called him on it, like, really? How can you be poor as an engineer? And he goes, well, I worked for JPL and this is what they were paying me. And he goes, it was a joke that everybody who worked at JPL, you knew everybody who worked at JPL loved their job because they were obviously not doing it for the money.
Yeah.
Which is just shocking to me. Like the Jet Propulsion Laboratories, JPL's the one who just put that thing on the Mars. It just put InSight on Mars.
No, I mean that's
so,
how.
Like, these are the guys. That's amazing to me. Like these guys, paid as little as they are doing so phenomenally.
No, I mean
like,
that happened to me at Lockheed. Like Lockheed came out and was like, yeah, we realized like our entry level engineer salaries were not competitive enough, so here's a $4,500 salary raise. Like, so I'm just like, great, awesome, okay, I will take it.
Very much.
Yeah. So yeah, that just happened like a month ago. So
yeah, I remember you talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I think it'll be about 20 years before we actually decide it's time to throw somebody at Mars.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think
throw somebody.
I think it'll really depend on like the political climate, because I mean, with the moon, there was the space race. That was basically a dick measuring contest between the U.S. and the USSR. Like there was an actual vested interest, because it's like, okay, first one to put a man on the moon wins this pissing contest. And
right, and
now it's like, what is our purpose in that, other than just doing it for doing its sake? Like,
well,
I don't really know. Like,
it isn't just doing it for doing its sake. We have to acknowledge, like, our astronomists or astrophysicists, our engineers, like everybody involved in that kind of field knows that when you look at things long term, our time here on Earth is finite. Like either something's going to hit us and destroy us all, or the sun goes out and then we're fucking dead. Like we cannot, as a species, exist here forever. We have to learn.
Here's the counterpoint to that, though.
This rock.
Here's the counterpoint. When has humanity ever thought about the long term like that?
I agree, but we have to.
I mean, I agree that we should, but when have we ever done that? And that's why I'm saying, as much as I would love to see a man on Mars,
right,
I don't know if it's necessarily going to happen unless there's an actual need.
But you can say the same thing. I would say, if you look at the history of mankind, our ability to look at things long term has been progressively getting better. At some point, somebody said we can't stand in these forever. We individual family units trying to hide away from the highwaymen forever. We have to come together, and we have to build something. We have to build something that lasts and makes a future for our kids and their kids. Our ability to look long term and develop things based on that ability to see things long term has just been progressive, increasing.
Yes.
Has it not?
It depends on how long term you're talking, though.
Right,
because the kinds of problems you're talking about, where like the sun going out and everything, which is millions of years away.
Millions, if not billions of years
exactly
from now.
Yeah,
right. It's far more likely that we will die out of some natural cause, like a plague or something.
And honestly, by then
dies out.
By then, the technology to travel to other planets will be so much easier. Like, even just looking in the last 50 years, like going from moon landing to now, it's so different. Like, the amount of this is, I don't know if you've heard this, but like the amount of computer processing power that all of the computers at NASA had that were being used to put a man on the moon in its 60s, your phone has more processing power than that. Than all of those computers combined. Right. And that's wild. Like,
It's very wild.
Honestly, by the time the sun goes out and we need a new home, it will be. I would be willing to put money on it being trivially easy to go and seek out, another planet to colonize. Like, if we haven't done it already, which I would be shocked if we hadn't.
And that's my point. Well, that's my point, is that when you say, what's the purpose of doing that?
Yeah.
Well, that's the purpose. Like, we have to start learning how to do that.
I get it, like, for exploration's sake, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, we're going to have to learn how to. Terraforming is going to possibly have to be we're going to have to learn how to survive in climates or on other planets that perhaps don't cater to to human life. These are things we're going to have. These are obstacles that we're going to have to start considering.
If you're interested in reading an excellent book on colonizing Mars, it's really in depth and detailed. It's really fascinating. It's called Red Mars by Kim Stanley Robinson. It's a novel, but it's absolutely hands down one of my favorite science fiction novels. It's hard science fiction, not Star Wars kind of stuff.
Okay,
it's one of my favorite novels that there is. It's the ideas that they already have for how to terraform and the different ways they could go about it are really, really fascinating.
We certainly have theories on the books already, and there's some math that's been done, but we have to start applying that stuff.
It's all about the cost to really terraform.
Which brings me to mining and this concept. Yeah, we have to learn how to do it.
That will be done by a corporation first.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And it should, to be honest.
Yep.
But we'll see how that goes. We'll see if the world governments allow someone to do that.
Well, I remember
part of the problem is, the jurisdiction, the UN and that whatever, they pretty much claim jurisdiction over everything. They say, "Yep, it's all ours." And it's like, well, not really. You can't get there. If I can get there, I should be able to do what I want. But the legal battles will be intense over that kind of.
Can you imagine that?
Do you remember what was it? The Voyager that blew?
The Challenger?
Was that No, Challenger. Thank you.
Yeah, Challenger.
So when I was a kid watching the Challenger blow up in class, I remember that the concept of a rocket ship that could shoot itself out there and then land, right? Like, come back in one piece and not just hit re-entry and have to break off a piece that holds everybody together and a parachute. Like, it could stay in one piece and land. Like, that was science fiction. Like, that just didn't seem possible at all.
Yeah.
And now, you've got SpaceX or whatever it's called. They're doing that. They've done it like 3 times.
That first SpaceX launch scared the shit out of me. I thought the rapture was happening or fucking first contact or something.
Oh yeah.
Like that giant flaming white thing in the fucking sky, dude. You could see it. Like, I was in Long Beach and I was getting videos from my friends in Norwalk and in the valley, like miles and miles away. Like, what is this thing in the sky? And I was like, this is fucking it. This is how I die, I guess.
Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah.
So, we are. The singularity is a real thing. Like, we're going to hit a point where technology is just gonna take the reins from us and go, you know what? Appreciate all that you've done, but we'll take it from here. And when that happens, like, advancement will be. I mean, when you were a kid, how often did computers upgrade? What was it? Every 6 months?
I don't really remember, to be honest.
I mean, I think there's a point where you could go 2 years before your desktop or laptop was out of date, and now it's less than 6 months.
Yeah, but a lot of that is you can still get along just fine with an
Yeah, it
older
depends on what
computer.
you're doing.
I'm not saying your computer is no longer usable, but I mean, in 6 months' time, they've come out with something with more power, more processing, faster. In 6 months' time.
Yeah, it's I forget what that law is called.
Moore's
Do you remember,
Law.
Adam?
Moore's Law.
Moore's Law. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's although actually Moore's Law has slowed down.
Yeah, it has because they're getting they're at 14 nanometers processors.
The 14 nanometer tech has been around for a while. They're trying to make the jump to 7, I think. I think there might be something in between that they've done, but yeah.
Damn, Joel, your computer.
But really, what's gonna take to the next level is it's gonna have to be a whole new type of processing and technology. I mean, I know there's still what's the I'm drawing a blank. I was thinking of it.
There's processing that they're experimenting with that's just light.
Oh, you're talking ray tracing?
I don't know if that's what it's called.
Okay, so yeah, I think stop me if I'm not talking about what you're talking about. But the latest line of NVIDIA graphics cards,
quantum processors. That's what I was.
They simulate graphics in a fundamentally different way. They use ray tracing, whereas traditionally they would basically use equations to kind of approximate how light behaves. Whereas with ray tracing, you are literally tracing the beam of light from its source, like from your eye, and back tracing it across, bouncing across objects and onto its source.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and that takes a ton of power.
Okay, right, and that's. I don't think we're talking about the same thing.
Maybe
only because you're talking about graphics, and
yeah,
I'm talking
it's basically
actual CPU.
Yeah. I mean, a GPU, a graphics card, is just a dedicated processor that only handles graphics.
Okay.
Like,
perhaps, well, maybe I'm just not
I don't know.
Up to date enough.
I mean, there's several different. There's somebody who's been trying to make holographic based processors. It's never gotten anywhere that I know of, but I haven't heard anything about it for years. As Adam reminded me, because I'd forgotten, quantum processing is something that they're trying. There are DNA computers that they're working on. They use DNA for the processing.
What did they use
parts.
to use? Fuzzy
I have
logic?
no fucking idea how they use the DNA. I really don't. You would have to look that up. But it's going to take, because, especially to get, if you're really going to make a leap, right now what you do is you have massive increases in efficiency, which is especially important. And then, really processor speed hasn't gone up a ton. They put in more cores and they increase efficiency, but speed is actually, I mean, unless you choose for a high speed one, for most computing things, speed is still, most people don't have
because, and the reason for that is the heat given.
Right.
Because they can make it to where it gives off a little less heat, but there's still like a kind of reasonable cap.
Right.
So, which is,
otherwise you have to have massive cooling thing.
Yeah, liquid nitrogen setups, which is really cool to watch. Honestly, like I don't know if you've like some of the the world records for overclocking, and this is just me completely nerding out here. So,
yeah, totally.
It like the world record is something on the order of like 8 gigahertz.
Yeah,
which my CPU is running at 5 right now, or like 4.9.
Damn, son.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the upper end of like water cooling. I mean, you can get like low 5s with the water cooling, which is what I have. But yeah, with liquid nitrogen, these kind of temperatures that it hits, and it hits like 80 degrees Celsius on a liquid nitrogen cooling system with this level of overclocking. So it's just nuts the amount of heat this is giving off.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I just noticed that we're actually at 11:40.
Yeah,
so
it's kinda late.
It's getting late.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us tonight. We covered quite a few topics. It was a slow start, but I think that we picked up from there. Yeah. Thank you so much for for joining us tonight. Thank you to my co-hosts. This will be the end of the show. We're not doing an after show because we just did it.
Yep.
So, join us next time here on House of Auger. Have a good evening. Good night and go home.
Night, everybody.